All right, welcome to episode 21 of It's Server Time, and this is a special live edition. Yes, the big 2-1-21. It is, it's going to be different. It's going to be a little different because anybody that is subbed in the chat in the spot that we normally take patron questions, you'll have a chance to ask a question, but you have to be subbed on Twitch. So that's the one difference. Patron questions still will get the love that they always do. Be sure to subscribe on Patreon if you want to ask questions regularly when we aren't doing live shows. But as always, I am joined by Mix, Note, and Pronogo, and we will be breaking down the major. We're going to be talking about pretty much every team. There's a lot of Rostermania going on too, but let's just go straight to the reactions. I mean, the major, it just ended a couple hours ago, and Navi Simple, he got his championship, guys. He got his chip. He got the spicy chip, the hot chip that has eluded him for so long. Finally does it. This is his third grand finals, right?
Yep.
And it has happened.
It has.
What are your guys' instant reactions to Simple getting his first championship?
Finally. That's it.
It was kind of nuts. I don't think we're going to see as strong of a performance from any other player in a major grand final or even in a major run, I think, in probably ever. It was just so dominant.
Do you have the stats on that? Do you know if anybody had a higher rating in a major MVP than this?
No, I think Eminem's actually did a tweet after the match where he broke it down. So the closest rated player was Cold Zero with a 1.40 at Krakow.
Oh, and so Simple
ended with 1.47.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait. Simple. Oh, this is in history of all players,
all majors,
basically.
yeah.
So
all players,
Cold
all
Zero,
majors, yeah.
So Cold Zero did not even win the major or MVP, but had a 1.40. But Simple, as the MVP, as the champion, did it. Wow. So it's like maximum sample size because he went the full distance. That's
yeah. We'll never see something as dominant as this. I think it's just going to be so hard to replicate a level throughout a tournament as dominant as this.
Yeah, it didn't drop a map even on their obviously the nuke streak they've been building out throughout the whole tournament. The one time they get taken close, Nico whiffs the whole thing. We don't get a 3-map grand final, and that's what's going to be the graffiti. Shout out to the pre-show. Yeah, shout out.
No, please, no, that can't be the graffiti. I won't stand for it. If that gets the graffiti, man, you can't have a graffiti that's just purely to tease Nico. I can't. That is, I'm going to actually take it up with Valve.
Peter will never play Nuke again.
No,
Peter actually had a good idea for the graffiti if there was to be one from this major. And it'd be on Inferno from Hunter where he like cups his ear because it would be, A, it's an iconic moment, but B, it's also like the return to having a crowd in a stadium after 2 years. So it'd sort of mark both of those together.
Okay, I didn't know he was referring to the Hunter ear thing.
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what he's referring to.
That would make sense though. That would be really good. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool one. Yeah, I just can't let there be a negative graffiti, man. That's just too toxic for me.
Listen, if you're gonna give Nico a negative graffiti, you gotta place a positive one somewhere else.
To balance the scales, is that the argument?
Yeah.
I was thinking you were going to go completely the other way and say, go back to every other major and find a negative graffiti for all those majors.
There'd be so many.
That'd be so many. Too.
I know.
Yeah.
I thought that's where he was going with it. I could tell. He's thinking something toxic, but he didn't do it. Because as Mauisnake says at the end of all of his videos, go ahead, say the line.
Being toxic is a choice.
There it is.
Exactly.
This is where the Simpsons start clapping and cheering.
Woo! Yeah, exactly. The normal closer. But I'd say okay. Actually, I have a question for you guys that I do think. Okay, here I'll just pose it. If Bit won the major MVP over Simple, would that be a blight on Simple's resume?
I don't think so. Not like it would be, but not like that big. I mean, I kind of think about it like the instant you said that, the instant thing I thought about was like Steph Curry not winning like a Finals MVP. Especially that year he lost it to Iguodala, so like most people would actually like Curry is like still the most important player on the fucking. It would literally be exactly like that. So, no, not really. I mean, in a bit, some people would like meme on it, but I don't think anyone would like take it too seriously because he has like 30 MVPs. Other than that,
yeah, I mean, you have to remember.
And then you'd go back.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say like you'd still go back to the event and see that he was averaging like a 1.38 rating. So it's not like he was getting carried there or some shit like. But
yeah, he's definitely the like leading the charge, tip of the spear. I mean, this is a point that I made earlier. I thought for sure, if Navi's going to win, the worst part for Simple would be if he only wins a major when he's got like really competitive, strong teammates, and like that you can sort of use that as an excuse for why he finally won, because like obviously Nico, by comparison, he didn't have the same level of strength in the rest of the roster as like obviously go down the lineup bit, obviously Boomich having some fragging games, Perfecto, Electronic, like all of these players at various times have either forged their reputation in the past with Electronic, but also just in general have been taking, tearing heads off bit rookie of the year. Like there's so many things that you can pull from that it might take away from Simple's legacy, as the fact that he finally won a major and it took him so long and it took these circumstances. You can't even say that now. The guy had the record-setting major performance, 1.47, yes. Like insane average rating, and the idea that that's going to be the performance that he puts on. No wonder he deserved the MVP, and this is totally deserved. I think even if he ends up dropping this in some crazy 3-mapper where G2 upset it and we crack all the viewership records from here till the end of time on that one, as hype as that would have been, I still think you have to give it to Simple anyway and say like, what a talent, what a god.
Yeah, I think it would be more of like a fan narrative, if anything, if it was supposed to be like Bit winning the MVP and people sort of shitting on Simple for it, because there'd really be no reason, especially if Navi won the major, because I can guarantee you Simple would absolutely not care about not having the MVP. He would rather have the major title and not have the MVP than not have the major title. You know what I mean? Like that's the bigger achievement, regardless. It means nothing in the grand scheme of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he probably goes home and he just throws like his like event MVPs into like a bag with like all the other ones.
Yeah. I'll just say there would be the, like when you say the fan narrative to use it against him, that's basically what it would end up being, that the main people who would be throwing this against Simple are the ZywOo fans, the ZywOo stans, all the ZywOo stans that are like anti-Simple, the people that are like just have to hate on him, most of which have vanished completely. There's pretty much no way you can make fun of Simple at this point. But because he's going to be number one this year, he has a major MVP, he has a major championship. If Bit took it, I do think it would be a little bit of a blight. Like, I'm not going to say that it takes away the greatness of Simple. Like, he would still be the best of the year, which most people consider more important than a major MVP. Like, people say ZywOo's the best in the world, even though he hasn't even really been that close to winning a major. And so I would expect to see a lot of just crappy comments in reply sections and comment sections that would just use it against him. But I don't think most real pundits would use it against him in a derogatory way. It would just be almost more of a celebration of, oh my god, Bit really is the answer. But then, like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Just that people would celebrate Bit a lot more than they already have. Okay, let's talk about the second place team. As Eugene put it, of Navi, I think he's like the owner of Navi, in the pre-game segment, he said G second. Really top tier banter coming out of
I'm glad you actually caught that, because I totally didn't understand what he said.
He's saying G second, and then he's like, hey, Navi fans, let's start a chant, G2, top 2. And I was like, I don't know if that's gonna work, because like top 2 is pretty awesome, honestly. So he really tried to make that a thing, but then people were like, wait a second, we're celebrating the fact they're actually a good team. But G2, okay. Going into this, I think that Thorin put it out there on the desk, and I think a lot of people already were thinking it. It seems like they're going to make some roster changes. But do you guys think that there's a case right now that G2 should just be sticking it out for even longer? Does this just extend the roster? You think they should just change Mix?
Yeah, I think they just change. I don't think like even this is like almost like the closest series I felt like they've had against Navi at times. Yes. I don't remember the past series too well, so I could be wrong. But like this actually felt like even map 1 was like pretty dominant for Navi, but obviously map 2 super close. G2 probably should have won it. Mm-hmm. But like I still just think like with this roster lineup that they have now, this is like the peak that they're just gonna keep hitting. Like they're not good enough to beat Navi. They look terrible coming into this event. I'm surprised they even got to the finals, honestly.
Coming into the event, nothing to be happy about. They lost to Mad Lions in the last. They were absolutely like event.
It's not even just that like they were disappointing. They were like atrocious. Like they literally couldn't buy a fucking map. Like. Right. So it was good to still come in and show that like they were still like a good lineup, but I still just don't see this lineup just like elevating past this. You know what I mean? Like they haven't shown the peak to beat Navi ever, so they're not hitting like some like crazy peak that they can't consistently hit. It's just they get to this point sometimes they're worse, and they don't really seem to go much farther.
Yeah. It's also easy to look back on the series after that whole double overtime on Nuke and think that it was super close the whole time, but really Ancient, once it hit the second half, was entirely Navi's, and it's really not as close as it looks just by looking at the scorelines alone. And I have to agree with Mix. I think they're just not going to be competitive enough to consistently beat a team like Navi. Or even for that matter, like if NIP get a better player, for example, as a fifth, like, I don't think that they'll be able to outmatch them when Device is playing like he should be, which he didn't at this major for a bunch of the matches, unfortunately. But yeah, I think also this is probably one of the best off-season periods to make a large change to your lineup, or like make a substantial, like add a large name to your lineup, because that's a lot of contracts are running out at the end of this year. You have a lot of teams and players looking to make changes before we head into 2022. So it's going to be the best opportunity they're going to have to be able to get a large signing to their team right now. I mean,
yeah, I got 3 angles on this. Obviously, the first one is just piggybacking off of Note's point about roster moves. Ocelot, if you're not familiar with him from the League of Legends side, he just cuts star players, huge signings, crazy stuff, and he obviously sells some of his players. He famously sold Perks, who was like GOAT Western candidate, basically, obviously off to C9, and he paid for like so many other roster moves with that mega transition. So it's not even like he's in the tank, in the hole a lot with his money. He's actually quite shrewd in that respect. And he kind of knows that if a roster isn't going to make it, like you can kind of tell when it's past an expiration date. Probably the only reason he doesn't make a move sooner than this is because obviously we had the 2-year major cycle with the RMRs delaying the roster moves for all of the other teams. And if you also look beyond that, you have to consider, like, because of Ocelot's history cutting other stuff, the fact that he got Nico in the first place was a huge shock. Like, holy crap, this guy's actually making moves, right? You go past that, he's not unlikely. It's not a complete outside baseball possibility that Nico ends up getting removed. I mean, that's a crazy idea to all of us who are just CS fans. But this guy will just cut star players if he thinks that they're not going to work. If he thinks that they're not good for the team. If he thinks that, like, maybe some of the other players that he can invest in or maybe will shine in other circumstances. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not going to predict that. But that is a legit possibility with this guy in the reins. And if you consider the idea that, like, just from the roster move angle alone, this team didn't participate. This is the other take that I'll say, is that they got progressively better against Navi specifically, where they were more competitive in the second best of 3, right? This is after IM Katowice. I think it was Cologne or something was the other best of 5, rather, that they were able to do. And then they almost take them to 3 maps here. But are you really going to wait 2.5 years for your team to be able to take 1 map off of Navi? Like, I don't think so. I think this lineup's past its expiration date.
Okay. I was gonna save this part of the question of the week for later, but let's just get into it now. Okay, sure. So basically,
I just wanted to get into it.
Yeah, let's just get into it. Let's just save the first part for later. But for this one, if you had to make changes with G2, okay, who is the first guy we're taking off this team? Let's just almost in unison. I feel like we can just say it, right? Jax, surely, right? Jax has to go.
Amanek has to go way harder than you. Okay. Like the thing is, I'll be
one sick play.
Yeah, he did. I'll be the contrarian here and say Amanek has to go. Like, that's actually my first move.
Ooh, the thing is, I don't need Amanek to go. I don't need Amanek to go. I need Amanek to take Jax's role or something.
I've thought about this too. Okay.
Yeah.
I would rather Jax stay in Jax's role than Amanek take Jax's role, and I think they'll be a better team for it. That's just my personal opinion in terms of how I think.
We're split down the middle here if you look at the overlay.
So that's mostly just like I could be like super wrong, but that's my personal opinion.
Would you take you to Jax, right?
Yeah. I don't know, I'm on the fence because I think when I talk about cutting players, I always try and have like somebody in mind as a replacement, and I don't know who I would bring into this team other than like maybe a ropz if they can get him. Safe would be sick. Yeah, like if they do need the thing is they do need an opper. So if they're gonna get an opper, then you replace Amanek. Like I would agree with not replacing Jax's role with Amanek. I would rather them do that. But if they're gonna try to stick to their weird like hybrid sort of thing where they're not really sticking to opping as much, then I can see them replacing Jax. I just don't see what op they would possibly get right now.
Yeah, okay. The replacement is a tough angle, but I will just say from the angle that I saw, why I would actually prefer Jax to stay on. By the way, spoiler, I would actually prefer they both go. The problem is that Jax is like the glue guy. If you see him, like there's one note that I thought was really interesting is in the middle of some of their semifinals, I think also the quarterfinal, some of their playoff matches before we got to Navi, Jax is the one who's like maybe sometimes getting out of his seat and like trying to grab the players, in the middle of a attack timeout and try to sort of get everybody back in the game and make sure that they're all level headed. And obviously you'd hope that the coach could do that to some degree, or that maybe the star, like the caller and Nexa, might be able to rally the troops. But if you remove an element like that, you don't know where it's going to go afterwards. And on the point about Amanek, it's just that it's nothing that these two players did wrong. Amanek and Jax didn't necessarily do anything wrong if you want to be like a top 10 team in the world. But G2, especially Ocelot behind them, wants to be the best team in the world, which is crazy to think about if you're a CSGO fan, because when have they ever been top 1? But that's the aspirations behind the org. And so when you filter your sort of, you're viewing the lens, through that sort of lens, if you're viewing G2 through that sort of lens, you're going to say there's absolutely no way they keep either of those two players, because they're not tier 1, top 1 players in my eyes. I think they can go to a top 10 team, top 15 team and do pretty well. I could see like Jax, if he speaks good English, he could really do well on something like OG perhaps, if they end up swapping out one of their sort of
I don't think Jax would do well on OG. I don't think Jax is that good. I just don't think Jax is that good.
Sure.
I'll just stop it right there. I mean, I think that Jax is okay. So I looked at the ratings for this when I was thinking about this segment a little bit, because Jax, of anybody that made playoffs, the only players that made playoffs and had a worse tournament rating than Jax are Linus and Plopsky.
Even Kyojin did better. Is that true?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Kyojin, Linus, and Plopsky.
Okay.
Kyojin, Linus, and Plopsky, I think, are the only players. Yeah, of course, Kyojin. I mean,
I guess we could replace Jax with Kyojin if you want.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that if you replaced Amanek with like a good opera, I don't know what opera at the moment, but there's like a fuck ton of good operas, right? G2 can surely sign one, right? There's someone they gotta like. I think a team with Jax still there and like replacing Amanek with like an actually good op. So you have like Nico Hunter, the op, Nexa kind of there, and then Jax is just like the fill guy or whatever. I think would be a better consistent top team than like keeping Amanek. But I think you could do better than Jax if like you want like a different fill guy, I guess, for entry.
So if G2 are willing to actually spend real money, I think we are though in agreement that if they remove 2, it'd be Amanek or Jax. Or would any of you want Nexa out over one of those two? I think
the problem is I just use the same logic that Note had. Like, who do you replace Nexa with? That's going to gel with this team. That's also going to call well. I think the biggest issue is that Nexa's just been kind of inconsistent with his fragging output, but also that his calls maybe haven't been adaptive enough. I think they come in with a pretty good game plan. We saw that on Ancient, but it doesn't really feel like they can turn the tide once it's shifted.
Okay, speaking of the calls,
Nexa seems to be fine. So I was going to say Nexa seems to be fine playing with Nico, and that's kind of hard to find sometimes.
But of the calls at around 14-8, Nexa called for at least 4 A executes on Nuke.
Yes, in a row. In a row.
There was a stretch of 4, and he just didn't call it on round number 30, but rounds 29, 28, 27, 26, he called basically the same A execute. A little bit of misdirection in it, some cross smokes outside, some stuff like different timings on it, just a little bit. But he called the same strat 4 times in a row. And it failed 4 times in a row. And that there's usually, that question that people put out there, why not just call it because eventually it'll work? I mean, I think Nexa just tried that in a major grand final and it failed. But I'll be the first one to say that I don't think that's an indictment on Nexa, particularly for how he called throughout the rest of the tournament, because I think that G2's T sides actually are fine. Like, I don't actually think that that's the biggest flaw for me always. I mean, sometimes their defaults are not great. And sometimes people get outplayed a little bit here and there, like individuals, but I don't think that it's necessarily just horrible call after horrible call. It was worth a shot in my eyes.
A rare moment where the chat actually helped me out here. Somebody in the chat, I'll try to find you, but I can't. Yeah, you're gone. Sorry. Chat's moving too fast. Nobody will notice that you said a good point. Not a single first place finish in a tournament, like an actual trophy lift for Nexa in this lineup, besides I think Champions Cup Finals, which was against I think
end
Team
of 2019.
Yeah, that was end of 2019 season. This lineup, this 5-man lineup, since the end of 2019, hasn't won anything. Hasn't won a tournament. That's crazy if you remember G2's place in this ecosystem as supposed to be a champion. Because even OG threatened for finals and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's a point. That's a good point. I think the G2 discussion's wrapped up a bit. I want to go to the series like that grand finals did a pretty good job in terms of that map 2 was exciting.
Yes.
Like, flat out, I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, I think everybody, like, that was like the whiff heard around the world, the Nico shot. It's like
I had
so many
Mirage
great
in my
moments.
eyes. I knew it was coming.
Yeah,
bro. Yeah,
I thought it was coming too. I thought we were gonna see the map streak broken, but one series that absolutely did not deliver was Gambit. Gambit Navi.
Oh, yeah.
That was legitimately the most disappointing series I saw at the major, and I watched so much of even the challenger stage and so much of the legend stage, and I literally just never saw Gambit in that series whatsoever. What's the deal with Gambit, guys? Why did they suck so bad?
I mean, they're definitely not as good, but like regardless, I do think playing on a stage, kind of like not just a stage, but it's like it's the major. There's a lot of pressure. You're playing Navi, who you've been having like a rivalry with the whole time. They're in like top form. It can easily like just kind of like crumble onto you. I'm trying to even like look at the moment because I really want to see who's been like, because there has to be like someone has like dipped off in form. But even looking at it, it's like no one's necessarily playing like particularly like super bad. Like maybe Axel, maybe a bit underperforming a bit within the last month. He's not quite been the devastating force that he was, which I think really hurts their T sides, especially because something Axel adds is that he'll just like take random 1v1s at like any time, like in places like you wouldn't expect, right? Like on C9, for example, we had like Esatag and Floppy on B side. Esatag's just like coils, just like spotting, chilling, just seeing if anyone comes. Axel just comes up banana, just takes a fight with the guy coils and kills Esatag, and you're just like, well, fuck, like there's nothing you can really do about it because you have to fight them eventually, and you have to, you can't just fucking hide from them with setups forever. So,
right,
having that added like element on your T side is like super powerful, and it helps Nafany call, I think, a bit. And so if Axel isn't playing well, I don't know. I think a lot of things just kind of compound to them. I don't think they're as bad as they showed in that Navi series. I think that, I think the addition of like all the pressure and like their first experience playing this type of thing was like getting to them as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I think specifically the pressure of playing in a major playoff series of that caliber is what really got to them. I don't think that this is the sort of level that they would normally play up to at all. I also don't really think it's like an online versus LAN thing because they played relatively well earlier in the stages, but this again is one of their first big stage matches in a stadium with a full crowd, and it's a major, and it's a semifinal. So I think all of that, along with playing against Navi in this form, just led to such a blowout in that series that doesn't necessarily speak to how they're going to play going forward. But I just think this is a drastic underestimation from them as to what it would actually be like playing on stage at a major. Like Nafany said in an interview that he had no nerves, and I do not believe that whatsoever. He might have believed that before they reached the actual stage, but once they hit it, that changes dramatically.
What I saw him say on Twitter it didn't seem like it was like, yeah, I have no fear about this fucking major, right? What it seemed like based on what some like sober tweet was that like he said he wasn't really feeling like anything, which I think it's almost like a different type of service because I understand them. Like it's not so much like you're feeling like super high or super low. It's like I guess more so some people mentally you just cope with it by just going to just like total like disassociation almost, where you're just kind of there, Like it's a weird fucking mindset to be in. I would say that he probably wasn't actually feeling nerves, but he probably wasn't feeling in like a normal mindset, like the correct one. I think maybe what he's kind of shows that he's feeling a bit off during the week. It's been like a crazy week. Like especially it's a bit different, right? When you come in from like nothing into like your first major, right? Like say like Copenhagen Flames, like they haven't been doing anything this year really, aside from just the tier 2 stuff. But Gambit's been playing all these tournaments and like winning them at the start of the year. That adds even more pressure when you finally eventually do go back to a major and you're playing on stage against Navi. Like I think it could all add up into just like a weird mindset. I think Gambit shouldn't necessarily like panic about the result, but I do think they need to like be able to like look in the mirror and like try to understand that it wasn't just like being on the crowd on the stage. Like they've been falling in form a bit, so they need to like go back to the drawing board and try to see what they can change up and what they can improve.
I think their T sides are actually a concern for me. I think that when I watch them online a lot more, and even watch like Axile's POVs on certain maps, the amount of times he's so comfortable just going for what I feel like is a timing peak on T side, especially dry, like with not much utility. Like I think I found the stat before that was just how little flash assist Gambit has on their T side, like the lowest of basically any top 30 team. And I think that on LAN, I think when I watched their comm videos, it was very apparent that he would make some of those plays because other people would hear rotations. They would hear like that one extra footstep, one like that nade in sync with a gunshot, so then they know that two people are in a certain spot. And if they were always playing off of that, knowing basically everything going on the map, and it's the reason that their rotations were always so good in the online phase. They pretty much heard everything. Like they literally had the volume cranked up 100 and in-game at 1. Like they were so good at that. And Axile in particular, like his T side drop off at this event was kind of spectacular. In the playoffs on T side, he had a 0.74 rating, and for the event as a whole on T side, he was like really down. Like he had a 0.84 on T side. And most people have drop offs on T side, but Axile is supposed to be like a top 3 guy on this team, and he went for me very missing.
Yes.
He still played CT sides really well. Like he's still a site specialist in a way, but I think some of the like reads that Gambit used to make in the online era, or even in the studio when they have full sound, it's a lot harder to do that when there's potential confusion because of external noises.
It's like a slippery slope, I would describe, right? It's like more so you don't have Axel doesn't have all the info that he's used to having. It's not he's not like playing like the same exact game that he's been playing with like the info and how he's playing off his teammates, which in turn makes him less confident in what's going on. That's going to make him less confident to take like random fights that he wants to take because, you know, he's not really sure about what the CTs are doing. So yeah, it's just the whole thing that like, and if you're not taking those fights as much, like that can affect your confidence, like over time, especially because, you know, you're just kind of playing differently. It's a big knock-on effect.
I think also something just tagging on the point about LAN and arena play is that the audio cues, I'm sure that like Gambit weren't really ready for a lot of those. For me, an interesting sort of sub-narrative that's a little bit more based in the meta, but I think it does have a bearing on this team and just how all of these sort of fresh arena players have adapted or not. The A1S is actually really powerful in arena play when you can't even hear the silenced gunshots. And that is something that I'm not sure Gambit were 100% prepared for, because it was always going to get a slight land buff, but the fact that it's every gun now almost no A4s, that's pretty considerable. And I mean, that's a situation that's going to negatively impact the T sides of any team that's not like prepared mentally, especially you're thinking of some of these close quarters engagements where rifles are still in play, like a nuke upper sight or something like that. Like if you're trying to fight around smokes and stuff and triangulate, but the crowd's roaring in your ears, I mean, that's crazy. And, you know, to Gambit's credit, they dismantled Furia. It was a 2-0. There was an OT in that on Inferno, but this is a situation where you would expect Gambit to come in swinging because they were able to so somewhat comfortably defeat the Brazilian team, which could theoretically have upset them or at least gotten a map. I was expecting more from the final, or the semifinal rather, and unfortunately it just didn't deliver. And unlucky, Mauisnake, because you did tweet out that every single game hitherto had been competitive, at least 10 rounds. And then that was the one that was 16-8, 16-3, see you later.
Yeah. Pretty unfortunate for Gambit, but I'm in the same camp as I think most of us are here, which is that Gambit don't need to hit the panic button just yet.
Yeah, don't blow this roster up. Like wait a little bit longer, see how you adapt to the LAN and arena play, and if you there's a problem in a month, 2 months time, maybe then that's when you make a change, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Hobbit was super aware of the fact that they could fall off on LAN, and there's nothing to be ashamed of a top 4 performance to the eventual champions. Like that's, you basically only lost to the best team there. And even if I'd actually be really curious if the bracket were a little different, if Gambit would have beat G2. Because I think that they have online they definitely would have. At LAN, I think G2 gets a slight buff there, but that would have been a pretty sick grand finals if we got the Gambit G2. In terms of competitiveness, like I'm obviously glad that the results ended as it did because Navi and Simple got it all. But
I don't know if anyone on G2 could have kept up, or sorry, if anyone on Gambit could have kept up with G2 with this specific tournament, though. Nobody was playing up to the same caliber. Hobbit did, but for example, like even Shiro had a pretty lackluster tournament compared to his regular form. Axile had a pretty poor tournament, so I don't think that they could have matched the individual output.
I'll just throw it out there then. If Gambit were in the grand finals against G2, who wins it?
I say G2 2-1, at least one overtime, but that's assuming Gambit. I mean, if they've defeated Navi, you have to give them a big up in stock, right? You have to kind of pump their stock a little bit. So I think that could go either way.
I think another question would be like this also like if they were on like the other side of the bracket and like the semis against G2, I do wonder who would have won. It also makes you curious. Like it's also funny how like timing can like change things so drastically, right? If you go like 3 or 4 months back, I forget how long it would be when Gambit was like beating Navi every time. I'm curious like how that, because like these things change, right? I'm curious how like if you play like within that time frame, how Gambit would do against Navi on like a stage like this. But obviously since then the tides kind of turned. The mental block kind of went the other way, where Simple was starting to own Gambit a bit more. And so I think that almost like made it worse for Gambit, like having that tide turn on them and then going to the stage and facing them. It's like it creates like almost more of like a mental block because you actually like know the people as well.
Yeah, I think the other thing about blowouts, I mean, this meta is kind of stilted a little bit more towards at least 10 rounds for the opposing team. You got the CT-sided meta sweeping in every map, but especially maps like Inferno, partially due to the grenade change, partially due to the M4A1S change. But I also think that like the economy system is still fragile, that if you can find purchase on T side, you can get like at least 3 or 4 rounds just by forcing the CTs to save or breaking their economy a little bit before they can get back into the machine. So there's a lot of like comeback mechanics or a game closing mechanics. It's kind of really bizarre in that sense that Gambit didn't make anything competitive. They didn't even get to that 10 round double digit score. I think that is like, as much as some people will say, what's the point in getting 10 rounds if like every map ends that way? It makes it even more obviously notable when they don't end that way, when it is a total blowout. That means that really like one team really didn't come to play because even the meta favors the idea that you can close that gap. So just figured I'd throw that one out there I thought it was an interesting little point of analysis where you can kind of see maybe Gambit really weren't up to snuff at all in that particular semifinal, and who knows where they would have gone otherwise.
Actually, with you bringing that up, I'm kind of curious, since it's been a while since the A1S change happened, what is your guys' thoughts on the current meta in terms of the economy balance specifically from side to side? Because it used to be relatively T favored, especially with how much CTs would have to save. I think it's kind of balanced out a little more in favor of the CT side, but then the Ts have easier purchase value anyway.
I think I actually would go to one of the rare good VU tweets here and just say that I really do wish that the A1S and A4 just had their prices swapped right now, because I feel like it's too easy of a decision to go with the A1S right now.
Yes.
If the A4 were 2,900 and the A1S were 3,100, then because I think everybody is preferring the A1S for the cheaper cost and the fact that it's the better gun right now.
Yes.
It needs to be one or the other. You can't give it both, or else then we're in a state where games are. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the game being CT sided, and I think it probably should be always a little bit CT sided on most maps. You know, there's the occasional maps like Dust 2 where it's probably more T sided, but even then, I think that I like how the game feels. In a way though, I kind of just feel like the whole, like what Pronogo said about the silencer being a huge buff on land, I don't really love that aspect of it. I don't really want the mega like 3 spray down or burst kill with the A1S just because people can't hear it. Like something about that is not, it's not like it's bad for the game necessarily, but it's just like, oh man, it makes it such a huge difference between LAN and online, where there's already the differences in emotions and the differences in a little bit of sound stuff. Like then the A1S gets an even bigger, a more drastic boost, which doesn't feel. It just makes it such a huge difference between LAN and online, which I'm not sure. Like I don't want LAN and online to be different beyond the fact that it's the emotions that take over.
In the very imaginary reality where Valve are paying attention to the CSGO esports scene and they're balancing based on that, I would say that like you have to kind of be honest with yourself before Operation Riptide. What are the game's flaws, especially as a spectator sport, but just in general? Like I don't think anybody thinks it's a fun or exciting gameplay mechanic that if I lose one person on Inferno CT side, I'm saving with 4 people. Like probably not a good mechanic, right? Probably not a good thing. That's a key issue, and I don't really think Valve did much to change it, but they did make it so that CTs could buy $200 cheaper on the M4A1S. That obviously we saw what happened when the Krieg was reduced in price, and the same thing with the AUG. Like it became just meta defining. I think a big deal with the idea of like this whole meta stuff, and as long as we're on the meta, we can maybe talk a bit about the map pool too, if you guys want to linger on that subject. A lot of it is that like some maps have been disproportionately impacted by the grenade change, and then you also have the LAN buff coming into play with the A1S. I actually think it was a fine idea to make it so that the A1S was more, like, if statistically it was more powerful, which is obviously the damage change. But I don't think that you can couple that with an earlier change to reduce the cost of it. I think obviously Valve is being very conservative and only changing one aspect at a time. But if you're going to buff something that you already buffed and people still aren't adopting it, you'd think they would have learned a lesson a little bit from the Krieg, which they kept reducing the price, kept going, kept buffing, and then eventually had to nerf it into the ground, basically.
They isolated the variables to a point now that we know what the difference maker is.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like to see one more tweak sooner than later with the A1S.
Yeah, swap the prices with the other A4 maybe, or just, I mean, I still think it would make sense if you could buy them both at the same time. I know Valve wants to do that whole inventory thing, but I kind of feel like it's an anachronism in the current state of play. Like,
agreed.
You know, revolvers are memes for show matches, and what else do you have? I guess you have like the CZ versus 5.7. I think really you could remove one of those guns, and even though it does make an impact on the meta, it's not like massively drastic. Like, you don't need both of those, right? So.
It's so lame that actually, you know what happened with the show match today is that I think who was it? Was it Yabby? I think Yabby had the revolver in a lot of rounds, but like nobody else could even buy it because they probably like, oh shit, the match started and I forgot to switch it, so I can't.
A bunch of them did have it.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think who someone else had it. I think, right?
I saw there was a round where it was like 4 revolvers against 4 revolvers, but maybe it was dropped. Like, it's hard to remember.
I think it
might
had
have been
to be
dropped.
Yeah. Because I actually think I remember distinctly that they were the same skins, but yeah, that's pretty much that. 8 revolvers, someone said in chat.
Yeah.
I just don't know why we can't have all of the guns able to be picked in games still.
Exactly.
Like, for the love of God, please.
Yeah. I mean, even if you want to keep the CZ in there as like a different, it is functionally different than the 5.7 or the Tech 9. Like, it does make a difference, but why do I have to pick? I still don't really understand what value that adds to the game. It feels like it's only stopping us in the case of the A1S versus A4.
I think the only reason they haven't changed it is because it's probably hard coded. Like, it's probably hard coded to share the same slot.
It is,
because I think the way the game used to work or something previously was that the weapons were registered to the same slot, so it would actually count the stats for one of the weapons for another or something as well. Like, the P250 would count the stats for the CZ or something like that. It was really weird back when those two used to be interchangeable.
Okay, we got one more semifinal we didn't really touch on, the Heroic G2 one. I think this was one of the best series in terms of competitiveness at the event. There were a couple maps that I think beat it, but in terms of how close the series felt throughout it, I mean, even in the culmination of it being map 3 overtime, like G2 ahead, I think 13-6, Heroic come all the way back up 14-13, G2 bring it to OT. Like, that one was also pretty damn amazing. Do you guys think that in that game, like, were Heroic at any point were Heroic supposed to win it?
Yeah, map 3, 100%.
Yeah, you think? Yeah. When they were like, it took them so long to get back there. Like, G2 were ahead. G2 kind of choked, and then they like unchoked. They Heimlicked themselves.
My read on G2 this tournament, especially once we got into the arena, I think you saw this against NIP very briefly in the quarterfinals, is that if they are front running and then a comeback starts to mount, and especially if that comeback is predicated on Nico being neutralized somehow, and this happened in both Inferno maps, remember, I think that he ends up tilting, and that is a factor, and it does take some time to get back to form, right? I mean, if you think about the NIP match in specific, it sticks out to me that the round that they finally break Nip's win streak on their CT side, right? So G2 in this case are on T side, is when he double entries to B and then gets like a triple kill the next round, or maybe I'm having it reversed. Either way, is 2 multi-kills for their first rounds in like the last 10 or something. You know what I mean?
It does feel like he has to be the one that breaks the game. Like, he has to be the game breaker for them in those kind of moments, because it's rarely some kind of tactical call that gets them out of a slump in the middle of a match.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like to me. I thought when Heroic were starting to mount the comeback, it seems like G2 are an easily tiltable team. And the fact that they were able to rally in overtime and even get to overtime, they obviously did it off of the back of yet another explosive B take. And then they finally make it to that OT and they take the map. And that was impressive. And it must be crushing for the Heroic players. And, I don't know who could have seen that coming from an angle up in the sky. Nobody could have seen that coming. So,
okay, One thing I got to bring up that I brought up when I was doing the co-stream is that I have a vivid memory of a lot of closing maps in Cadian's history where he just does nothing. Like he is like he cracks under the pressure. And like Cadian is clearly the emotional leader of a lot of the teams that he's on. Like he's getting super hyped. He's like really giving, like he's showing he's wearing his emotion on his sleeves. And yet when it comes to the big moments, it really feels like somebody needs to help him, because I brought up at least 9 lands where Cadian on the last map had like sub 9.9 rating, and oftentimes like 0.6, 0.5.
He had a 0.63 rating at the end of the, or 6.1 rating, sorry, at the end of this last map.
It's really common. Like it's really common when Cadian is facing elimination that he finds like he just plays the worst form of his career. And so I don't want to break up anything from Heroic either. I think they're a team that is just right now top to bottom a very strong roster. But I will say that they need some way. Maybe it's a coach. Maybe it could be a coach that needs to be behind him. That isn't cheating. That can help him break those kinds of moments. Like he needs some kind of emotional support. Like someone needs to give him a hand, because he finds like holes and he digs himself into them. In terms of his emotions.
He's probably trying to do way too much, and that probably also comes from like being the caller and like because like from like when I watch like Heroic, right, especially like their CT sides, Cadian's like always the one moving around the most and like picking up different angles.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine he's probably thinking like way too much about like what he wants to do or how he wants to call on like a third map or something. Like maybe that like kind of pressure is getting to him.
Yes.
It's like can be a bit overwhelming, and so that kind of happens, and like he's trying to like force shit, and like I don't know. There's like it's not even that you don't have to be like. You can't be aggressive, right? And like force things. So it's like, but there's a difference between being aggressive because it's coming to you, because you're letting things flow to you, and there's a difference between being aggressive because you're trying to force shit. Like it's a completely different mindset. You're gonna be doing things at like different times and different moments, and you're not gonna be like reading things like as clear as you usually do. So obviously, I don't know their comms. I don't know what the exact issue is, but I would imagine it's probably a case of Cadian trying to do a bit too much, especially as like the caller and leader of the team, and putting like too much on his shoulders.
Yeah, I think one other thing is people might forget, but Exist is only an interim coach for them, just for the major anyway. Like he will just be an analyst going forward if they choose to keep him on past the end of this year as well. I think his contractor, or the original deal that Cadian mentioned on HLTV confirmed, was that it's just a temporary thing until this year while they try him out and see how they work together, even in an analytical capacity. So they're also they should be looking for a new coach after this major, which to your point, Maui, I think, they need somebody else to be an emotional leader for them as well that isn't Cadian. Not that apparently coaches just have to be robots now, though. So, I mean, I don't know how much.
I don't know. Malik was getting pretty crazy. He was getting pretty crazy back there, actually. I was surprised, actually, how much Malik was doing, and the admin's just like, yeah, it's fine for this time,
I was surprised they enforced it the entire tournament very strictly, and then they did nothing
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or for Malik in the
specifically
end,
the grand final,
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, Blade couldn't even lift the trophy. Like, when will Valve's coaching rule stop? Well, he just didn't. So I made that joke. It looks like he was like about to move towards it, and then he was like,
okay, wait a
second. With the trophy shot, so I thought you were serious.
We have to talk about the trophy. We have to talk about
I was just going to say, like, imagine you're like Blade, right? Like, you just won the fucking major, and like your team's going to have to raise the trophy, and an admin just like stops you and like, where do you think you're going?
Listen, buddy, clap over there in the soundproof booth.
You're just watching from your team's booth.
You're not one of the 5 players. Get back.
Major trophies, guys. Where does this one rank?
Oh, I'll pull this up. I know exactly where we're going with this. I will pull this up on stream for everybody.
You have images of the different trophies, or what?
No, I just have the image of this trophy, which you can barely be called a trophy if you get my saying.
Is there a worse one? Like,
I actually don't know if there's a worse one.
It's the thing is that all the ESL events are like out of contention because they all have like decent trophies.
They have good trophies. They have cups.
The E-League events have like good trophies as well.
Yes.
What was the face? So we need to find out what was the Face It trophy.
It was like it looked like the Copenhagen Flames logo. It was actually a bit shit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the major one was a bit shit.
Here we go.
The Face It Major London one is it's a little bit Face It. It's very Face It themed.
Yeah, I remember it being very Face, but not as bad as PGL.
It has like the red flame at the top or something.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's got a red flame. It looks okay. It's unique. It's a little different. If this came out, I would be okay. I'll just say this is better. This is better. The Face It one, I found it. The Face It London one is better than the PGL one. I had to quote tweet Colin McNeil, and I didn't even say anything. I don't know if you guys. If you guys saw my tweet, I think 7 hours ago, I'll put it in the Twitch chat. Actually, what my quote tweet was. I didn't even write a word. Just
a dot.
But this comment by Colin McNeil, it's just like Magic. If Magic Johnson were part of the CS:GO space, I don't know if anybody knows what his Twitter is like, but Magic Johnson always just says the most like obvious things in the NBA space, where he's like, LeBron just joined the Lakers. This should give them a huge boost in terms of their chances of winning a championship. It's just like, thanks, Colin McNeil, for telling us all that the trophy has a gun, a deagle, nades, and a karambit on it.
I have it on stream. This is actually ridiculous. This is actually absurd.
I went back and looked at like the PGL Krakow trophy, because I was like, I wonder what they did back then. It was just like a giant actual fucking trophy. Like, what happens? Like
the Krakow one? Yeah.
Yeah, the Krakow was just like a giant actual trophy. Like, why did we go to this?
Yeah, there's like something with this major just feels like a lot of last minute stuff in general. But
that doesn't make any sense though, because it's like, if it's last minute, why the fuck do you go through the effort of putting all that shit on a trophy instead of just like, well, we gotta get a trophy, just something big and silver, it'll be great. Like, that's all you have to do.
You know how HLTV shows the trophies on people's pages when they win them? I'm scrolling through Simple's like trophy cabinet on there now, and it's just, this is the ugliest. There's not a single. They don't even actually on HLTV. They didn't even put the trophy. You guys just put the logo of the PGL Major.
So it has to actually be like edited by our graphics guy. So it'll go up there eventually. This is just temporary.
Okay. Every other trophy on Simple's collection is so much more impactful, whether they're cups or like nice little like plaque kind of things, or the blast.
Even the blast trophies are better. Even though it's like blast logo, it's still better, I think.
Yeah, it's more impactful.
I don't remember where I saw it, but I was trying to find a specific tweet that made fun of this trophy, but I cannot find it. It was pretty fantastic.
I did have a straight up. I should have clipped this from my other. It was the second day post major stream I did, and I actually did trophy analysis, so I can sort of do the same thing. I think you go through this right, and first of all, at least from this angle, and I'm pretty sure this is true with all the others, they're not even lined up. Like, this doesn't even look like there's straight lines. If you look at like the bottom of all the lettering, that's fucked. Why have you got the Molotov to be like 3 or 4 times bigger than the other pieces of utility, including being bigger than what I assume is a deagle, but I can't tell.
It's a deagle.
Yeah, and then they have like one of the most overrated knives in the whole game. Just sort of like, you can't even see the tip of it, right? You can't even see the tip of it because it's obscured by the G, at least from this angle. Why?
There was a major, I think it was MLG Columbus had a trophy that was like 4 karambits, and it looks sick.
Columbus's was sick, dude.
It was a really good trophy, and it was using the karambit. So I don't have anything against the karambit. I just think this PGL one is like, why is it slanted?
There's
why is
zero composition, dude. There's zero composition. There's almost no thought, it feels like, actually into the orientation and the organization of all of these elements. Like, why do they stack up like that? Why is the HE smaller than the smoke, smaller than the
event
Molotov?
Organizer just told his friend that does like a bit of graphic designing, like, all right, here's what I need. It's got a PGL on it. It's got to have CS:GO stuff on it.
Yeah.
Fucking go wild, bro. Played like,
you know what would have been
like 3 games of Counter-Strike.
What would have been really interesting and nice is, instead of all this stuff, I really don't even like that it's PGL and these are like, that's the foundation of the trophy, because I feel like maybe you don't want to make it your literal lettering. But even if you wanted to do that, like, keep the whole front of it solid, and then like have a spot where it's like, when it's brought out, it shows that it's like potential team logo or something, like some spot where there's like there, and then you engrave it with the winner. Like, that would have been way sicker than this. I mean, like, this is just ridiculous. Or maybe you engrave something related to Stockholm, something related to the venue. Like, give me something more memorable. Yeah. Give me something more memorable.
To me, the best CS:GO trophy is still like the ESL, the Cologne, just the giant cup.
The Cologne giant cup one. Yeah. Dude, I even think, even though it broke on stage, I think that the Berlin one, the Berlin Star Ladder Major trophy was pretty epic until it broke. Like, honestly, if it didn't break, and yeah, it kind of in a way immortalized the moment in a cool way. You know, it's. I mean, obviously, it's not the best look to have a trophy break on stage, but it was cool that how lofty they made that. You know, they made it. They really tried.
Chatter. Listen, I know Giant Cup is not original, but it doesn't have to be original. The trophy.
It doesn't have to be.
It has to be a trophy.
You don't want to reinvent the trophy every time.
I don't even care if you do, but just do better than this. Come on, PGL, bro. Your production was disappointing, but this, I mean, Simple could have lifted this with his pinky finger. It's fucking tiny.
How many PGL Stockholm trophies would fit inside an ESL 1 Cologne trophy?
At least 2.
4. Okay. Three, maybe three or 4.
No, I want you to pull this tweet up with the image, with Pross image above it, because this made me laugh so hard.
Let's see. Live production.
Someone's shouting out the Flashpoint AK. I think the Flashpoint AK was awesome. I think the first one was also nice. Chrome red, dude. It was full size. Like, putting that in my hands felt hefty. It was like, wow, this is like a gun. You know, this is a gun in my hands. This is a sick.
Yeah, because it wasn't plastic, was it? It was like it had weight to it, didn't it?
It was like weighted and chrome finish on top of it. It just looked so good. You know, Flashpoint 1's was the best. I think 2, they tried doing some kind of like art, some weird art vibe on it, like kind of almost like I don't.
It's like origami or something.
No, it was.
Or is that the first one?
No, the first one was just chrome red. The second one had this weird kind of like graffiti-ish kind of thing. Yeah. But like, honestly, I didn't like that artist at all, to be honest. But then the third one was, I think they kind of went back to a simple chrome thing, and it was good again. So,
you know what could be sick, now that I'm thinking about it, since we're talking about like AK trophies and stuff, which I thought was a really cool concept, is if you make the trophy an AK, but then you give like the MVP award as a deagle or something, like that could be pretty cool, you know? Little like statuette almost, like you could put in
that'd be really good. That would be awesome. Okay.
I just think there's so much time to design trophies like this. I think like PGL knew they were having this major for so long that there's no way that this is the best design they could have come up with in that time.
I know, man. It's just kind of a big question mark on who's overseeing these things. Okay, we're a little bit over an hour into the stream. Let's do some of the questions from chat and from the patrons that we've got, and then we'll get into. I posted
those in the group chat, so if you want to go grab them.
All right, yeah, I see him. So how about this? So anybody that's subscribed in chat will answer your questions. But if you're a sub in chat, you get to ask a question. So if you're not, sub it, go for it. Hit the damn sub. Use your Twitch Prime, whatever it is. But we'll do the patrons first, and whoever asks a question by the time we're done with these 2 questions, we will do yours. So the first one comes from Adam, who is a patron donator. He says, with the release of Blame F and some Astralis players' futures and questions, what would your ideal all or mostly Danish lineup be, possibly featuring these players? So the thing is with this question is, I think he asked this before Blame F joined Astralis, but we can still put together an ideal Danish lineup, because I don't think there's one in existence right now which would fit our ideal. So I would go, well, okay, if you start, okay, how about this? Mix. How would you construct yours?
So am I able to use device, or is that also?
I was thinking the same thing. Because mine would literally be Astralis right now minus Lucky plus device.
Yeah.
Like their Blame F config roster minus Lucky plus device.
Really? That simple? Is that simple for you?
I don't need device. Okay, what we're gonna do? All right, fuck device. All right, we're gonna bring back a guy, bag into a Danish-speaking lineup where he thrives, and it is gonna be sick. All right, everyone's given up on this guy. They're like, fuck this guy. He doesn't deserve to be on a top 10 team. No, not Yugi. Jesus, come on. Okay, let's be serious for a second. All right, so okay, we're gonna take a core off Mouz, which is gonna be good for Mouz as well. All right,
okay,
they're gonna get their guy in. And A-Core is going to go to Astralis, and he's going to be their opper. He's going to go back to Danish speaking. He's going to be playing with Glaive. I think he'll be a good fit. I think he'd be a great fit with Glaive and Astralis. And I mean genuine about this. I think A-Core would play so much more like he did in Mad Lions, and just overall better in a lineup like this compared to where Mouz is at the moment.
It can't be worse. It can't be worse.
And so because there's not really that many Danish ops that like are just up and coming or anything, right? Like Device is on Nip, so I'm not going to use him. Farlig,
Farlig's take Farlig over A-Core.
I take A-Core over Farlig. I'm sorry. I'm taking A-Core. I'm taking A-Core over Farlig. I think A-Core will play better on Astralis.
Acor to me has the same like Draken tendency of the 30-degree op whiffs, honestly. Every time I watch him, he misses a lot of sitters. And then he'll hit some ridiculous flicks. I'm just like, what is the point in this anymore?
Since I get to construct what is this? I get to construct an ideal
all Danish
lineup.
All Danish lineup.
See, the problem is he hasn't specified he actually wants it to be a competitive lineup, which obviously would have invalidated Mix's selection immediately.
Okay, sure.
I'm
your favorite.
You're
ideal.
You're fast. It's insane.
I want a return of tactical Counter-Strike at the top level. I need the biggest brains Danish Counter-Strike has ever produced.
I know where this
I am
is
going to go Glaive. Right? Top number 1 IGL, like probably the biggest brain guy ever, right? I'm going to get Magus. He's going to be our secondary caller. He's obviously done a little bit of IGLing himself. We're going to bring in MSL for his notable tacticians and his strategy and the fact that he can put in his system put together, right? And obviously he's going to be our primary opper who's just going to blow device
MVP winning opper.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. I mean, these are some pretty good accolades. Then we need Kerrigan. He's going to be our hype man, our hard entry. He's going to make sure that he can call himself into a site and then call his teammates to trade him after he doesn't get a kill. And then who's the fifth one? I know you guys are all asking who the fifth one is, but if you can see what I see, if you can see through my eyes for a change, it's just got to be Cadian. I mean, Cadian himself, he could do our secondary opping. You know, that's a double op setup, CT side, lock it down, and Coach Hunden. All right, GG.
Okay. My ideal.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Head over to Navi.
All right, that's the last time you were the guest on the podcast.
I had to make hay while the sun was out. You know what I'm saying?
My ideal lineup would be Kerrigan, Config, Stown, Shush, and I'm not sure who my last player. I think it'd just be Device. Yeah, because I'm being honest, because I'm being real about it. I think that's the best 5 you can put together right now. Well, let me see. Wait, Kerrigan.
I would take Config over Kerrigan.
Stown, Shush. And who was my Device? Yeah, that's right.
I love Kerrigan, but like in an all Danish lineup, I'm still going with Glaive or Kerrigan.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Wait, wasn't this question about Blame F initially? Like, wasn't he like, hey guys, you should put Blame F? And then we're just like, yeah, forget about it.
I wouldn't even put. Well, if I made an ideal lineup, I think that you don't really want someone as selfish as Blame F on it because his T-siding is a little weird and it doesn't seem always constructive the way he plays. But I basically like Shush would kind of be my like lurk kind of guy because he does that on heroic a lot, and he is just like, well, Refresh and Shush are kind of like extremity lurk dudes sometimes, and I think that Shush just does such a he's so reliable to me. Shush is like Shush is a better Zipnix to me right now because I think Zipnix has kind of fallen off. Like, when's the last time you guys saw a Zipnix clutch? Really be honest with yourself. Like, it's been a while. Like, it used to be like, oh, does he have it? Does he have it? And like, I've been saying that for 5 months now and haven't seen like more than one clutch. So I think Shush has won more clutches to me recently, and Zipnix, he's past his expiration date. Get him out of there. The best support player in Denmark right now is Shush.
It's a real shame that you think that Zipnix has passed his expiration date because Astralis re-signed him till 2025. So tough.
That's a mistake.
I will say, listen, if I can make one change to this lineup, I'm taking out Zipnix. I'm not adding Shush. Actually, I'm going to go more personal bias. I'm going to add Estetag.
Yeah,
because he's had a rough few months, and I do think as like a role player in that type of role, he's like one of the absolute best in the fucking world. It's not even close. So
okay.
And he make it past a 3-month period on the lineup though.
Hell yeah. I think he would.
Yeah. He is about as unlucky as Complexity, where I feel like.
Yeah,
that's a 3-month tag.
Yeah,
that's a 3-month tag.
Well, me and us, like a very similar path. So we were both on the Colossus, and then it died, and then we went to a team for like a month, and then it died.
And then it got taken over by Brazilians. That might happen to Essetag's team. Actually.
It already did. Yeah, Cold Zero, the only one left. Yeah, that's actually really good. Really good storytelling.
Actually, yeah, 2 of your roster, like you and him, both got taken over by Brazilians. Actually, all right. Let's go to Fursock's question. Fursock says, now that Maui's out of the game, who is the hottest pro/semi-pro in the tier 2 NA space? Obviously, the first part's a joke. I'm blushing, but who's the hottest pro/semi-pro in the tier 2
hot
NA?
Or like
yeah, I'm not sure if he means hot as. Let's do both. Who's the most attractive?
Let me go look for who the most attractive is. Give me some time.
Yeah, it'll take a second.
Yeah,
somewhat related.
The hottest up and comer is Cynic. That's just my choice. I think he's like a really hard worker. He's in a fuck ton of roles. He's gonna be really fucking good. And yeah, I think any of like these top NA teams like Liquid or EG should honestly look at signing this guy, but well, it depends on like the roles, obviously. But to me, Cynic, in terms of like best playing, like hottest up and comer that I think is definitely going to be a top player in the scene, I think Cynic. Just based on how I see him play in the scenes I hear.
People saying Swisher in chat.
Swisher's good.
Swisher's pretty good. I don't think he has like the hard carry hot potential right now. Like Swisher will be basically for any team a really solid support piece. Like you wouldn't even want him to be your first star or second star, but he could maybe be like your fourth best player or third best player on a team that could be top 30, I'd say. I think that's fair. I think that for like hottest, most attractive, just looking at player stuff, I think Junior is pretty darn attractive.
Yeah, I think Junior as well.
I love Junior's hair personally.
Yep.
Like he's got great hair. So I think Junior could kind of pull wherever he goes. I bet he was pulling when he was in Brazil.
I think DJ's got a nice look. DJ's got like a nice look going for him. Obviously, OC is like the #1 pick, but I think we all knew that. So it's like just beyond that. Fang has like really good style. Fang has like good style.
Fang's got great style. Fang has great style. Fang actually looks like he could live in New Jersey, wear a wife beater, his gold chain, and just somehow like make anything look like he could just walk around in the local neighborhood and he would just get girlfriends by walking, like literally.
He seems like he's like the type that like he's like a New Yorker. Like I imagine like a New Yorker just have like arguments in teams where like everyone thinks it's like really heated except for like the New Yorker, where he's just like yelling at people and he's just like, what? This is just how you talk.
I'm walking here. Fang kind of looks like I'm walking here, even though he's from Canada. He's like literally from Canada, though. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Okay. I think did we do that? Did we do that question justice? Do we need a little?
I'll just shout out Floppy, but I won't say why.
He also has an MVP, and he's making.
Fang, you mean?
Yeah.
Fang,
yeah. You know, he's making.
Floppy. I will say Astralis on LAN though.
I gotta shout out a glow up within the NA scene in terms of looks. Grim has really
glowed up.
Oh, absolutely.
Grim has glowed up. Evolved.
Grim did glow up.
Grim is so hot.
His Instagram,
Grim's little beard is perfect. It fits his face so well, actually.
His beard fits him very well.
I think if Fallen rubbed off on him somewhere, it's the beard. He copied that. He copied the beard from Fallen.
Surprised nobody's brought up Twist. I think we were more thinking like
that's a good. Was it up and comer? Or did I miss that?
Well,
I was like,
he did say up and comer. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
He said tier 2.
Yeah,
he did say tier 2 to be fair.
Twist.
So the fact that we said Grim at all is kind of rude.
Yeah, true. The fact that we said Grim OC thing was kind of whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up, guys. Honestly. All right.
Okay, people come here for these important discussions.
This is an important
player hotness in tier 2 NACS.
Let's see if
there's a C9 based on my insider info. That's 100% happening.
Jeez, you're not supposed to answer people if they're not. It's okay.
Was that supposed to leak that Stewie is 100% rejoining C9?
It's fine. It's totally fine that he's.
I did post the only sub question we had in the chat here.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay. Bill. What was the sub question? Bill said, because he's a sub, Bill921 gets a shout out. How many more tournaments does Navi have to win to get an era? I feel like it already is the Navi.
I honestly feel like we're in the middle of it right now. I guess if they completely bomb out every other tournament, we might see them say like, oh, it's kind of like Liquid. But
as long as Navi wins like one more tournament for the year, I think they've pretty much like locked that down.
Well,
maybe they need more lands, like more arena lands. Maybe that's the only argument you could make. Is like some of this era is still from online, right?
Okay,
I don't think they crumble in an arena though.
Yeah,
I don't think they do either. So there are 3 more big events for the rest of the year. There is the Blast Fall Finals, there is IEM Winter 2021, and there is the Blast World Finals. Despite the fact that I am working the We Play Academy League, I'm sorry, it's not on that level.
No, Navi's not going to that tournament.
Navi isn't at IEM Winter though.
Oh, okay. So they have 2 chances to win maybe one more thing. It would be like, so if they won none of those and they came in, let's say they didn't even come top 2. What if they were in the top just 4 of those? Do you think that's do you think it's still their era? Do you think they can continue their era when the year starts up again?
Yeah, I think they could. Like,
yeah, I think it still counts.
I don't know, it's hard to like say because it's like, especially when you're like this moment in time, right? Is that like they like built up the foundation for it to like for it to be considered it. But you still have to like follow through and finish. And I think even if they don't win necessarily like the next major, it could still be their thing. But you never know. Like they could just go to the next few events and just like completely bomb out of groups or something. Like it probably won't happen, but until they actually show up and perform and win the events, then you kind of have to say that they're pretty much already there, like almost there. In my opinion, at least.
I think from winning Cologne to winning Pro League to winning this, it's pretty hard to say that they're not, like, it's not their era at the moment.
For sure.
And especially even coming top 4 at the next two, like, people, if they come top 4 at the next two Blast events, people will just chalk it up to, oh, they're taking it easy after winning the major. I think if they consistently start not placing first over the period of like 3-4 months, then we can start talking about how it may no longer be their era. But I don't think it's something that we're going to see for a while.
Okay.
Unless Simple just decides to take a break, which he is disputed on the in an interview with Striker.
Yeah, he already dismissed that. So Simple's going to keep going. I think, I think we're in the middle of the Navi era. I think this is like month 7 of it, month 6 of it, maybe. Just given that the Grand Slam, they completed the Grand Slam 2 months ago, almost to the day, 2 months ago. And before that, they had won, Cologne. Or, no, wait, they actually completed it. Yeah, they completed at Pro League 2 months ago. They won Cologne 4 months ago. They won, the RMR, I guess. That doesn't count. No,
I don't think it counts.
It's a bit. I think it's just a bit weird. It would already be considered a major if it wasn't for the fact that like some of these events have been like some of the Grand Slam events were like online.
Yeah.
Like,
I think if I
almost think that like they like regardless it still is like their era because they did win like the Grand Slam and the fucking major. So it's like
I think so too. Yeah. I think so too because also they won the global final at the very beginning of the year too, which was the biggest one of the 3-4 biggest tournaments of the year.
Yeah.
So that's like they've had a really complete 2021. Like they've basically been on 11th months of being a top 3 team straight.
I think the second half of 2021 especially like solidifies it.
Exactly.
The only argument you can make against Navi having an era already is basically if you just want to wipe out all online play entirely and say we'll start from here, and here being the return of lands.
So even if you do that, you have the whole what was it, Katowice last year, and then
I don't know if I factor that in because they did fall off after Katowice a bit, right? This is the online play,
Yeah, but it's kind of like if the logic is don't count online stuff. Okay, they've been good on LAN before LAN was like before LAN or before we had to move away from LAN and after we had to bring LAN back or that we did bring LAN back. So they have been super strong when the games have been big. We got one more. Oh well, actually let's answer the second part of this. For Bill, he said also thoughts on Blade as a coach.
Big turnaround.
I like Blade
implemented a successful system. Yeah, like he went away and he figured out where his system was outdated or not up to snuff, and he was able to turn it around, which I think is huge credit to him. Like maybe you can actually talk about him being coach of the year over somebody like Xtaz or somebody like Zonic historically. Like one of the most impactful coaches in CS, most likely.
I think he is probably one of the top 3. Like I kind of like a top like echelon tier, I guess, where it's like Zonic, Xtaz. I probably can put Malik up there too, in my personal opinion, and then Blade. I might be missing like some people, but I mean Blade, like I think has pretty much solidified himself, especially with the roster moves that he's made. They weren't like the obvious moves to make, like someone just going after like Team Spirit players or something, but bringing in Perfecto and bringing in Bit and moving him over Flamey, like all these moves that like he needed to make, I think were super good. I felt like kind of like coming in, like maybe even towards the start of this year, I feel like Blade almost got like a bit too much credit, like at times, especially because Navi hadn't really done much up until that point, and I felt it'd been like a bit disappointing. But it's so weird. Like Blade's been like some people have been like very down on Blade, some people very up on Blade. I felt most of the time that I felt he deserved a spot in Navi, but I wasn't sure if he was like making that rise to like the top tier of coaches. But I think he definitely has.
I think
go for it.
I said all I was gonna say is I want to credit both Blade and Navi's psychologist or their sports psychologist, whoever's behind them, because they're very clearly playing a part. I'm not sure who they are, but the players have talked about them in interviews a couple of times. Blade's also mentioned working very closely with them, and it very clearly shows when Navi go into especially high pressure matches where they're always mentally in it. They never seem to really be stressing super hard at all, even in situations that come down to the wire. And I think that's like a massive credit to the combination of both Blade and their sports psychologists. Like even in their match today, they took I think 3 pauses in the first half of New Cologne. Like it was very consciously, both probably to stop G2's momentum a bit, but also just to give time to the players to recollect on their own. So I think to their credit, they worked very well in their system together with their coach and psychologist.
Yeah, I think we gave a lot of praise to Blade there. I think that he worked. I think what the biggest thing for me with Blade is that it really kind of wasn't working at the beginning.
Yes.
And then it seemed like from interviews and things and even watching it, it's like a flip switch where they recognize like, okay, we can't implement entirely what you're thinking, Blade, but we're going to meet you in the middle. And I think whatever that middle is what we're getting now from Navi, and it's obviously the best form of Counter-Strike at the moment. So props to him. We got a couple other subs actually that asked some questions here. So here's another one. Blender of Death asked, everyone keeps suggesting that ropz is on the way out of Mouz. If so, do we think Frozen and Bemis stay? If so, who comes in or leaves? If so, where? Well, if ropz leaves, I mean, I don't think that Frozen and Bemis have really too much of a choice on this matter, but if you're saying like who could replace ropz, the answer simply is nobody, pound for pound. But if you really like want somebody, you kind of have to go digging a little bit now. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Mouz want to take somebody from their academy team to implement. Like JDC is the most clear replacement. He kind of even plays some like not as much star roles as ropz. Like ropz gets to do a lot of what he wants, but JDC would just slot in and be a great team player immediately. If you wanted someone more like if they took out Frozen and Bemis, like the replacements there, yeah, also on the academy team.
When the time comes for Mouz, like they're gonna have to pretty much reinvent whatever their identity is at the moment. I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
ropz is like such a huge part of it that if he does go whenever his contract is up or whatever the fuck's gonna happen, that I do think that you're gonna need to reevaluate like the rest of your roster as well and who you want to keep, because generally when someone like ropz leaves, you can't just like slot in like another fifth and expect to get good results. Like you have to like make like a change. So you got to change out at least one or two other people and like completely like reinvent what you've been doing. At least that's my opinion for what Mouz is going to have to do when the time comes. I don't think there's going to be like you're not going to find any like 1-for-1 replacement. You're not going to find like any like clear cut replacements that like let you just keep working in like the same direction once ropz leaves. I think you're going to have to like kind of hit the reset button and think about Mouz is going to have to think about where they want to go from there, like as a team.
Yeah, Mouz basically.
What their future's going to look like.
Yeah, Mouz need basically a total rebuild, it feels like. I don't think Acor can be a part of that in the future. The problem is they can't even hire a graphic designer, so obviously they don't have the cash, to splash. They clearly don't. However, if you sell ropz for actual money instead of waiting for his contract to go up, where you lose your franchise player for zero cash, then maybe they will actually be able to hire some people and we can get back to the old Mouse Sports logo. That would be cool.
I have a question that sort of ties in.
Go ahead.
But where would you guys like to see ropz if he was to go to another team right now? Just like a 1-to-1 replacement on a team.
Just has to be FaZe Olaf. FaZe Olaf for me. It just like that's the one. I would also not mind. The thing is that they're speaking in Swedish, but I would obviously for NIP for their sake want Linus or Plopsky out for ropz.
Yep.
But that's just like a move on paper, but not actually in terms of the comms of the roster.
I haven't studied OG's demos on CT side, but I feel like ropz could actually swap out for Nico. Because I think, by the way, spoiler, I don't think Nico's staying in that lineup. Just because of all the shit that's happened. Like, his head can't be in the game, right?
To me, ropz is more of a Valde replacement than a Nico replacement.
That could be true, yeah.
They play, the thing is that I think is lost on some people, or can just be lost in general, like on a team, right? Is that some people might play like similar spots. Or they might play like similar like rotators or anchors, shit like that.
Yeah.
And they could be like replacements for each other. But there's also like the fact of like what like mindset does each player have and like how centered do they want the team to be around them and like be free to like make their choices and just like their personalities in general, right? So it's like ropz could probably replace Nico and do like a decent job. But also at the same time, OG has to consider like the ripples it'll create in terms of like how's Valde gonna feel about that? Like how's Valde gonna have to like change up how he's been playing?
From what you've seen, would you agree that Valde works well with low resources? Because I feel like ropz probably doesn't need a lot to succeed himself, and I also think Valde doesn't need that much either.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good move. Like ropz replace Nico and like kind of replace Valde as like what's supposed to be like one of the three stars of the team.
Swap them out almost, right? Yeah.
I've seen Valde play a handful of different spots for OG.
Valde can definitely play like a ton of spots.
Yeah,
he's like definitely super versatile. I'm just not sure of like his mindset and like how much he wants to be like a focal point, like center, like like star of the team. Like how much does he want to dictate what the team's doing, and how much someone wants to do that can really dictate like how your role changes from like team to team.
Yeah.
They don't have the money anyway, so it kind of does feel like a moot point. But I just figured I'd shout out OG because I feel like that kind of roster. I mean, the other thing is I don't even think Alexi B stays on that lineup either, so they're going to be in a weird spot too.
The only thing
I just think. Go ahead, sorry.
I dislike ropz going to OG because I just feel like that's kind of a lateral move for ropz, where he doesn't get on a roster that's like that much better. Like I just think like even though their ranking is 12 and 15, like we've seen Mouz with higher peaks in the last year, we've seen OG with higher peaks. Like they both kind of feel like tumultuous rosters that never can maintain any sort of or semblance of stability.
Yeah, people want to see ropz on a team with money that is like able to build something with like the very top tier of Counter-Strike without being what's the word I'm looking for, taken from them, which is what FaZe would be. And also another reason that I think FaZe is a good fit for ropz at the moment is FaZe really doesn't have like a super hard identity, I'd say, at the moment. Like they're kind of just doing whatever. I think they could change in like a few different ways, and I think ropz would be a pretty good fit even with twists.
What if ropz replaced Grim on Liquid or something?
Oh my god! Actually, that would be so sick. But
it wouldn't work for Grim. No, I mean it wouldn't work
because he would be out of the team.
No, I'm not saying like ropz replacing Grim. It wouldn't work for Liquid because there just would be way too many. Like unless maybe like Stewie's like actually like or like they play
Stewie and Fallen are the ones that are like.
There's like another question leading about Liquid after this.
I think they make 2 roster moves minimum on Liquid is the big thing. And honestly, I mean,
you want to move into Liquid?
Well, let's just move into Liquid. Let's just maybe not K asked already as a sub.
Liquid,
Liquid rumors being true. Do they go full NA or something like plus Alexi plus Montu?
Yeah. Well, I think it's more than the Liquid rumors being true. If we go back to the fantasy land of being ideal moves here, I think Elijah's time is done on this lineup. I think Elijah needs to go somewhere else and find a spot to reinvent his career and really show that like why he's considered the NA chosen one, because he's just been on Liquid forever. He's been on Liquid.
Liquid is where he's going to reinvent himself, right? Listen, there's a lot of different.
There's been a lot of opportunities for that one, man. I don't know.
There's a lot of different directions Liquid can go.
What if he reinvents himself in a different game? No, just kidding.
And I was just saying. That's not saying. I'm just saying, like, so Stu and Fallen are obviously like looking out. They're seeing what else is out there. Liquid, more so than any other team, I'd say, even more so than like FaZe, is at a point where their identity is like, and like what they're going to be going forward, what they're going to be like going forward is very much like could be 1,000 different things. Like Stewie's like looking out the door, Fallen's looking out the door. That's both their like IGLs, you know.
Yeah.
Those are both the players that were, I would say, taking up the most space in terms of like the roles they're playing and like what other people were doing, especially some like, Fallen obviously is the opper, but he wasn't really playing that well, at least consistently. Stu's like doing, I don't think Stu's necessarily been like a huge problem for Liquid, but he hasn't necessarily been playing like a star as well, and that kind of takes away from what Grim's able to do. So Liquid, more so than any other team in the scene, I think has the opportunity to like reinvent themselves and see what they can do. Whether that means, but like you said, who knows what Elijah wants to do. Maybe he does want to go play Valorant. Maybe he does want to go to like some like EU teams can offer him a shit ton of money. But he could also be, what I was gonna like allude to was like maybe eventually, I think if sooner or later Elijah's gonna IGL and he is going to.
I almost don't feel like Elijah can IGL because
Really?
I'll just say this. I'll say this because so I don't know if you guys watched Elijah's interview with Richard Lewis, but that said a lot about Elijah's character, and it put him, in my eyes, in a very negative light. Like, I had the utmost respect for Elijah, but once I started finding out more and more of the inner workings of the teams, picked up on things more in interviews because I started just watching everything that they put out, it just felt like Elijah had this very like 2020 hindsight mentality for every bad thing that has gone on for Liquid for the last 2-3 years now. And it always felt like he's always shirking away from any sort of ownership or responsibility with what's going on with the team. And he was always like, I didn't think we should have kicked Nitro. I didn't think we should have kicked the Dren the first time. I didn't think we should have picked up this player. It's like, why can't you step up for what you believe in then, and in these moments identify that you think things are wrong? Because the team has been Elijah's team for the past 5 years. Like, he needs to take this team by the horns and just like absolutely control all the movements if he wants to succeed. And that's why, in a way, it just feels like it's gone on long enough that Elijah has kind of hindsighted his way into shirking away from responsibility so much so that if he like putting himself in the IGL role would make sense because I think we all know he has a good mind for the game and that he should be able to do it, but it seems like he'll never fully own up to anything. And that's why I think Thorin on the desk was actually kind of talking about the culture of Liquid at this major, and he was talking about how like there's things going on like with the inner workings of just how like Elige is not actually putting his best foot forward in every discussion, and he's kind of like always letting other people take the lead, and that's something that just has seriously rubbed me the wrong way. As soon as I identified that in Richard's interview, I started trying to notice it, and it's like, yeah, he's kind of critical of other people a lot of the time and doesn't really like always identify his own play, and that like there were series where he hasn't played that well lately. Even at the Blast Showdown, it was Stewie that carried them through that showdown, and it's kind of like Elige is not. I think we've given Elige a pass for long enough.
Yes.
And I actually would love to see him move to a new team.
Yeah, I think I think the last thing I almost want to see is just like this roster stick together and just keep doing whatever, because I do think they're in like, I think Elige is like not, like you said, like he's not like fully invested or fully in the zone of like as a player, if you know what I mean. Like he's not really sure what he is or like what's really like confident in terms of his own abilities. But yeah, like Elige could like, I want to see. I'm like stuttering so much, but Elige can do like so many different things because I'm just trying to think of everything. And like IGLing, and like you said, like that could be bad because he could, like you said, like not take ownership of anything, like not take ownership of everything.
Mm-hmm.
They could also change him if he did do it. Maybe his mindset's a bit different. Maybe he's like reacting to things differently if he is like the actual leader of the team in every way. But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't really know what position Liquid needs to go. But I definitely think that a lot of people need to go like to different things. Like, you know, if like Stu and Fallen were gonna stay, I'd say, well, maybe Elite should just go somewhere else, and then you're just trying to elevate Grim from there, right? Or, you know, just things like this. Like someone, I think more than anything, and this is almost something that like kind of like realizing in my head now, is that I want to see Elige away from Fallen and Stu, and I want to see like Fallen and Stu away from Elige at this point, especially Stu and Elige. I think I want to see those two do different things.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like the biggest deal for Elige specifically is that like he has just had so much time. I don't know if this is like an unpopular take, but when I look back at the Liquid that ran super far down and like they actually did have that almost era, and then they ended up not making it very far at the major because Astralis were able to anti-strat them on Vertigo. If people can cast their mind back to 2019 when they made that run, I wonder really legitimately if that is just some of like the most like the heights that you can get to in the best honeymoon period of all time, because that roster afterwards felt like it was just ego clash after personal conflict, and it's something you can't really quantify without knowing some stories behind the scenes that maybe we're not really privy to, we shouldn't be sharing obviously, but it does feel like there's a story that hasn't been told about why that summer run was cut short, and why it didn't ever get back to that height afterwards, that I feel like is probably a pretty big, you could say a black box for this Liquid lineup. So yeah, I feel like
people,
go ahead.
If people want to like really see some stuff about Elige's body language, like I know some insider stuff kind of about the workings of this team, and I've heard some stuff, but like one thing that is for public consumption is you go to the Blast Fall Showdown day 5 between VP and Liquid, and Stewie pulls off this crazy ace, right? He has that crazy at truck. He like has this insane ace that is like mind blowing. Like it's like holy shit. Like Stewie should never do that. Every single person is super hyped, and Elige has no reaction at all in the player cam, and I'm just like, dude. What is going on? Like, why does he not care?
I don't know how big of like, I don't know. I don't want to like overlook too much into that, because just as how like some people are, like they'd rather center themselves during things like that, I guess. It's just how they work most.
Yeah.
But like this does kind of like this, because this is something that's been constant over time. Like whenever I go back and I see that like simple 1v2 clip from Cologne 2016, obviously the one where he like jumps down, no scopes the guy, like everyone on Liquid is freaking out. And like Elige's just still like sitting there, just like, I can't believe that just happened. And then he just has like a slight smirk on his face, but he's in like the exact same pose. He's just like, wow, that's crazy. It's just like something happened in a scrim or something. Well, everyone else, like Nitro's like, holy shit, like Hiko's like jumping up, like and Alicia's like, wow, that was cool.
It feels like Alicia's emo emotions are go so low, but his like positive emotions don't even get that high. And for Cadian, like we were talking about him earlier, at least when it's positive, he brings the hype. He helps everybody out. And when things are negative, yeah, maybe that hurts him too because he has this huge emotional scale, like spectrum that he can be on. But with Alicia, like I kind of want someone that has a wide spectrum as opposed to like a very tight spectrum that's just on the lower end. You know what I mean? Like
the
Naps
peaks and
is
valleys
like so centered. He has like no emotion ever, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, if we're going to talk about what happens if Alicia does go off and reinvent himself, or no matter what happens, apparently Stewie and Fallen were linked in that Rushby Media article saying they are obviously evaluating their options. I think as far as an IGL goes, I would like to see Alexi B jump ship from OG. I don't think they've actually given him a reason to stay in that lineup. It's been a long time, and they haven't been able to do much. They challenged for 1 or 2 grand finals, but challenged loosely. I think it was like a 3-0 to FaZe, and not a very convincing scoreline to whoever else they faced. So I just feel like at this point that the failing to qualify for the major is the death knell for that particular lineup. Alexa B, go back to the glory days. Go back to when you were contesting for Alex at the time from Vitality and later Cloud9. Go back to when you were contesting for maybe even Kerrigan or somebody like that in terms of how much stock people have at that time in you as an IGL. And we haven't seen much success from him in OG, but I still think if he's got the championship mentality, he thinks he can do it. Come to NA.
I'd love to see Alexi B on Liquid. That would be a very interesting move, actually.
It would be really cool to see them get some new direction. I'll say that.
Yeah. And I think he brings it. I think he's not just like, he obviously has his own highlight rounds or maps sometimes, but he does have a system. Like the guy knows what he wants to do, just like Alex did, just like you could say Kerrigan does, although maybe people are less convinced from Kerrigan lately. But, that's a legit shout. I think if they grab him, they can, if the other players buy in, which is another reason why I think Alicia should go, is because I don't know that he will. I don't know how half-hearted he'll be in the attempt to implement whatever Alexa B wants. But that's a move that I think could set them straight anyway.
I need Alexi B to clash with somebody, honestly, because he's been calling the same style for the 3 years now. And I actually pointed this out when I was casting them recently. Like you'll see that he just doesn't allow his team to lurk. Like he doesn't allow anybody to lurk on his teams ever. And so people will just re-aggress into areas that OG left, and there's no punish. Like they never punish re-aggression. I need someone to tell him that needs to change. Like you can't.
Something that plays into this is that something that OG has gotten basically zero shit for is keeping their coach, who also got banned for cheating.
Yep.
Like the entire time. So they never got a new coach. He was just like an analyst, so he's just doing like the exact same shit. And I imagine that's because Alexi B is comfortable with him and likes working with him. And that also plays into what you said, that he's not being challenged enough to like do new things or like change it up. Like I think that probably is something.
Get somebody new. Get a second voice. I want him to battle with somebody like not Fallen right now, but like someone like Stewie, dude. If Alexi and Stewie,
Stewie and Alexi could be a deathly combo if they actually got along.
Exactly. I would love to see them try to clash ideas and then try to come up with the best system possible between the two of them.
Even if it was something like Stewie replacing like Nico on OG or some shit, like
that could do it. I think, if he does decide to stay.
I do think Stewie and Alexi would be a good match for each other in like a weird way.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to some of the reported Rostermania? Because I just saw Chris J replacing Fallen as IGL and Op as a suggestion, and I was like, okay, all right.
Let's move on. Let's move on from this.
Up next.
Yeah, let's just talk about what has been officially officialized, and that is Vitality. Vitality, they have taken out their coach Xtaz, who was receiving a lot of praise. They took out Shocks, one of the best players in the world for stretches, and has shown that he still has a lot of value as an individual. And then they took out the guy that I think everybody wanted to see gone, myself especially, and that's Kyojin. I really rated Kyojin incredibly low because I think that for the first few months it was like I'll give him a pass, but it's been like 5 months now, 6 months, and he's not gotten any better. In fact, I've seen him regress in certain ways, like I don't know, like I don't love when I ever watch him play.
Yeah, it surprised me.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
I was just gonna cap it out that it's just like they added Dupree, Magisk, and Sonic, which is just crazy because you got an Astralis 3-man core right there.
Something that makes me like more optimistic about this move is that like a move that I was almost like reminded of for some reason, even though it's like not the same, was like one of those moves where like Fnatic got back together in like 2015 or 2016 or something. It was like, holy shit, this team's gonna be like a super team. It's like a lot of names that getting together. I guess maybe like even like the original phase, like with Kerrigan. Like the original like super team version, the one that lost to C9.
Nico, Guardian, Olaf Meister.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So, but one thing that does make me way more optimistic about this move is the fact that they removed Shox and not Masuta as like one of the other three, like one of the two to replace on the team.
Masuta's been good though, I think.
Yeah.
I think Masuta's progress has been really admirable.
If a team, like, there's definitely people that would do this, I think. Like, if a team had, like, a bad mindset over what I would call, like, a bad mindset, I could see a team saying, like, well, we should remove Masuta and Kyojin. We'll keep Shox there because he Shox, for the experience. It'd be great playing with Dupree and Magus. But I'm glad they didn't do that. They were like, let's keep, like, at least, like, one, like, actual, like, genuine young guy on the team in Masuta, which is always good for a team to have, I think. And then obviously you'll have Apex and Dupree and Magisk and Zywoo, and just, yeah, I'm super excited just to see this team play together, see how they do. Like, it's just super interesting in like every single way, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
No, can you ask Professor why his fantasy team is leaking into these reports? Like,
did he put this as his fantasy team or
no,
something?
I just know he always tweets out his fantasy teams. They're always funny.
He does like to tweet his fantasy teams.
I just think I think it's funny. I mean, this is definitely a what the fuck roster move when it was announced. Like, no way are they gonna
shock me? Totally caught me by surprise.
So to one point though, the last roster move that Vitality did, they did say that would be their last all French speaking roster. So they very much plan to move international. Even
well, this has been the plans for a while. That was the plan even when they originally got Shox. They were like, our next lineup's gonna be international. Then obviously like the pandemic happened, that throws everything into a fucking like cycle, and obviously plans changed. But obviously now they're actually doing it, and it obviously is clear that like, this is something they wanted to do, maybe get their feet into for a while.
And if you're gonna go international, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, this is a statement.
Blockbuster trio into your team with Zywoo already. That is so you're assembling the perfect pieces. And I just think it's like, this is an international team I can 100% get behind from the get-go. Like, I think they will have success. Will they be able to contest Navi? I don't know. I think that'll take some time. But you have the pieces for it, at least.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, as to like where someone, but Sunflower said like he doesn't see how the team can see when Zywoo doesn't even speak enough English to answer. I do think he speaks like
he speaks more English now. Yeah,
his English is better than that one Freya clip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a big difference between like calming just in your team and playing a game than like being on stage and having to answer a question in front of like a crowd in like a language that you're not super comfortable with. Like it's like a lot different.
The HLTV interview was in French, maybe not. Lucas speaks French, so I'm pretty sure it was done in French and then translated to English. But
that's usually for context, comfort,
like
though.
Yeah, that happens pretty normally. But Zywoo, as far as I know, like from what Striker and Prof and Lucas have all said, his English was perfectly fine. I'm not even concerned
with Zywoo's English. I'm more concerned with how Apex will call him English, and how easily he'll be able to do that, especially like in the moment.
So are we sure that it's Apex going to call, or is it going to be Majisk? Because Majisk did a lot of IGLing.
I think it has to be Apex calling, because if Apex if he gives up the IGL role as soon as the Danish trio comes in, my only concern about this lineup it's not. I think the comms settle themselves over time. I'm thinking like 6 months down the line, is this going to fall apart? My concern there is that like you are literally bifurcating the whole team and saying, here's the Danish trio and here's the French trio. You know what I mean?
Everybody's got their side right now.
Exactly. And they need to gel. I mean, I'm sure Apex is going to get along with these guys, like the more, the legendary Astralis core, but like, is Masuta going to find common ground? Is Zywoo going to be outgoing enough? Like, I'm sure they're going to work on this as like a team color building, sort of like building that cohesion. That's the main thing. If there's some sort of personality conflict later down the line, if Apex ever gives up the IGL role, that will be kind of like a sign of the end times for me. And we're obviously like prophesizing way far in, but I feel like if that happens before 6 months are up, you're kind of already starting to see the cracks form. So I hope that doesn't happen, because this is a really exciting move, and this could be big for obviously like the viewership angle and like all of the storylines and stuff. Big for the sport, big for the scene. I just think it is crazy. It is crazy, and I definitely like nobody saw this one coming.
I will say, if in 5 months they don't come top 4 at any events, we're gonna hear in an interview that they change IGLs. Like,
Probably.
I bet it's gonna. Like, I don't. I don't think right now they should start with Magisk calling, but I think that it would only make sense because it's like because you're saying how the team is kind of split down the middle there. You know, like what's Zonic gonna say to Magisk? Like, oh, you know what? Why don't we call more like we did on Astralis? And you know how to do that because you did it already for tournaments. So I'm excited for that though. I want to see like them try different styles because like the fallback plan for me with this team shouldn't be replace somebody. It should be, hey, let's just use this other style which we know works and see if that we can all make that happen.
And Zonic can help.
I don't even mind that. I just hope like if they do swap IGLs at some point, they don't do the liquid and just ping pong it back and forth between them. If you're gonna swap it, just
give it a real go.
Yeah, give it an actual go.
Yeah.
I think it just makes more sense to start with Apex. A, because that's the team they're coming into, and B, because I think the team has potential to be better with Apex calling and Magus just as like a normal rifler than it does with like Magus calling and Apex just playing like a rifler role. Like that seems weird to me.
I think Magus has shown he can reach much higher highs as an individual than Apex, and so you want him to be freed up as much as possible.
Yeah,
agreed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and Apex hasn't been that in years, so I think his best abilities at the moment are as an IGL, and that's where I'd want to keep him at least.
Ironically, except at the major where he did actually frag out a little bit, but that was like the one time. That was like his swan song, so to speak, with this lineup. It's sad to see Shocks go, but he didn't. I guess he's not going to be the one to sort of revitalize his career this late. Most likely, he was money in the clutch, and he was like this veteran player. But I think he needed to show Vitality basically needed to upset over Navi if they wanted to keep this lineup together. And even then, if they only fail in semis later, it probably doesn't happen. They basically needed to win the major in order to keep this lineup, and I don't see that happening. No, obviously it didn't happen. I would say as far as Shocks is concerned, we don't know where he's going. Biggest question to me, because Shocks might retire. He's had a great career overall.
He won't.
Huge, he probably won't. You're right.
He won't. But he did an interview with Luis Mira saying that he wants to like break the age boundary for CS and be able to play when he's 35 or whatever. He wants to be able to consistently maintain.
That's a bad signal, by the way, to the the RPK.
Luis did that interview, and I think like 2 days later, this report dropped that he was gonna be cut or something. So.
Yeah. So that is pretty funny.
Timing.
Yeah. So I mean, anyway, the biggest call that I have here is actually where does Extaz go? Because this guy doesn't speak English, reportedly. The only reason he's dropped is because the Danish duo weren't going to come without having Zonic on the roster. Like, he was a part of the package deal, right? So they have to drop Extaz, because who's going to, like, secondary coach? Who's going to just basically be replaced? And obviously, like, that would be a dream coaching duo, by the way. If that was a thing where we had two coaches, and, like, you had Zonic and Extaz, like, two of the most ridiculously, recipients of accolades. But nobody's going to actually do that. Nobody's going to do the secondary coaching role, just because they think they can lead a lineup to their own victory. So that makes total sense, but I actually don't know where he goes. If he doesn't speak good English, then he can only coach French lineups. Right, so
I wonder, like, I don't know. I wonder if he actually. Surely his English is like better by now. Like, how long ago did you know that? Because if their plan has been to go
like
international
a month ago,
for
but
a while,
I might be operating on old info. Yeah, I don't.
Who knows? Because like if their plan has been to go international for a while, and he's the guy that like makes the moves, and I'm pretty sure that like even comes from like an interview with him, like surely he would like work on his English a bit or something. Because it's like he surely knew like in the past like year or so that they weren't going to be speaking French forever. So
yeah, you'd hope so. Okay, let's go to Astralis. So the team that obviously Dupree and Magisk and Zonic left, Astralis are bringing in Config, Blamef, and Ave. Ave was the coach of North for a while, and they didn't really do it.
Classic old school 1.6 player, from my memory.
Yeah, he's like kind of
North tried to bring in Ave to be like their Zonic, so it's kind of weird that like Ave is like replacing Zonic on Astralis now.
Yeah. So,
and he wasn't really as good. So
this roster is actually like super underwhelming to me, which might shock some people because they obviously signed Blamef and Config. Before we get into the players that they signed, look at who Astralis lost versus who they kept. Like this is actually something that I haven't seen too many people talking about. Astralis kept Glaive, just become a father, very split priorities. Obviously looked money in the few bright spots that they showed at the major, but we don't know how long he's going to be, like how much focus he can dedicate to it. They've signed Zipix to a really long, like what was it, 3-4 year contract now through 2025. he's obviously looked at like career lowest form, at least in this lineup. So that's crazy. And they lost Zonic. They lost Zonic, who is obviously like the last sort of. I mean, if you're going to lose Dupree, you're going to lose Magisk. I hope you keep Zonic. We haven't seen Glaive succeed to the level that he has without the backing of Zonic, right? So there's so many unanswered questions now as to like how good Glaive can be. Can Xyp9x revive his career, or at least be a serviceable support player to some extent? Can he be the glue guy, right, in the cool head under pressure, like the clutch minister that he was in the ages past, so to speak? But now we have so many other question marks. Is Config back after the hand injury? That's a huge question, right? He's not necessarily money.
He hasn't really played, right?
Yeah. And can BlameF work without calling a system around himself? Because he said that he's not going to interfere with the calling of Glaive. Like, there are so many question marks here. That's actually crazy that the Vitality Astrality lineup that they put together, like that unified lineup, it has less question marks for me anyway than this lineup from Astralis. I feel like this one's way less likely to succeed, and we probably see them blow it up again in 6 months.
Well, it's like, because I mean, you know, if you just, all you have to do is like swap Lucky and Zywoo, and you just have opposite opinions instantly.
Maybe.
I don't know, that's the big weak point for the Astralis lineup for me still. It's just, I like Config and Blame. I think Xyp9x could be good still into the new year. I'm still curious on like what their process was for who they were choosing who to resign, and who was choosing who to go, who was choosing who to stay. Like, I don't know, I'd still rather have like Esatag over Xyp9x, but I don't really know them that well. In terms of like how I understand the friendship groups of that team, I'm pretty sure Esatag was more someone that was like friends with like Dupree and Magisk and like that side of things, maybe. Device, maybe even. I'm not really sure how it's been split up over the year or so, but like, yeah, I still just don't think Lucky is like gonna be the answer long term at least.
No.
They seem to be giving him still like more events to play, maybe into the year or so, maybe until they find someone they actually want to opt for them. But yeah, we'll see. The opera to me for Astralis is still just the absolute biggest question. I think the riflers they have could make for like a pretty good team.
I actually really like the signing of BlameF and Config just in terms of who they could possibly get as a replacement. I don't necessarily know how well the team's going to perform overall, but considering the players they're losing, these are probably the next best signings they could have gotten outside of, I guess, Copenhagen Flames players.
Who seem to be wanting to stick together as a 5-man unit.
Exactly,
anyway,
yeah.
So probably wasn't going to get that. I guess you could have gotten Farlig for Lucky, but that's not related to
So that's what I was actually just about to say. There was a draft 5 report that said that Astralis were apparently looking into getting Farlig. So
I feel like Astralis has been looking into offers for like at least a year. Like, honestly,
it's been a while.
Well, this is apparently I don't know how reliable this is, obviously, because it's Danish CSGO leaks. But they said that Farlig previously turned down an offer from Astralis or something. Yeah. So that does lend some credibility to the fact that they might still be trying to offer him now that FPX is no longer a thing.
Yeah, because like, but I have no idea what Astralis has been like. I still think they're in the market and still like trying to figure out, especially like I think they have the other 4 slots, but I think the opera slot is still a big question mark even for them. Because like if it was Astralis, like obviously Bubsky's like fully out, he'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like I saw a report like during the major that was like Astralis offering Bubsky to other teams, and I was like, mate, that's been since like last year. Like that's old news, bro.
Yeah.
That's been a constant theme for a while.
Yeah. I definitely think that. I think that like Pronogo's early thing about how Astralis are kind of the weaker team after this move between them and Vitality is definite. I don't think there's any way that Astralis won in this whole thing, but like Note said, to keep them competitive with the resources possible or the players available, I think this is probably one of the best case situations for them. But like those long-term contracts really do scare me for Glaive and Xyp9x because it just makes them like the most prime example of it was VP, you know, when they got the 3-year, whatever it was, like 20K a month kind of salary. It was like so bad for their competitiveness. Like they stopped
in terms
really
of, like,
trying.
The signings, I'm almost like more concerned about how the Glaive signing will work out than the Xyp9x signing will. I think that one is way more important.
I'm not as concerned about the Glaive signing, to be honest.
Somehow I think Glaive's hungrier than
concerned
Xyp,
about
Glaive loves the game too much.
I think Glaive is, and I think Glaive's just better than Xyp in almost every way.
That could be true. It was just I was thinking of like he obviously, I mean, Pronogo touched on it earlier, right? Like he has different priorities at the moment.
Yep.
So like his life in general is just changing. He's going without Zonic for the first time, which even if Glaive is super capable as an IGL, which we all know he is, because obviously that isn't all Zonic, but like that's still changes like the environment that you were in and how comfortable you were with working with your coach. Like, I don't know, it just changes a lot.
There's one prime example of a Danish guy and him having kids and him still like doing his job to the best, and it's Anders. He could just leave his kids for weeks and months and just abandon them.
And then someone coughed on a PCR test, and he's like, "Well, no Christmas. See ya."
Oh my God.
No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I think that's obviously.
So you're saying the solution to Astralis is to ship Glaive a large amount of mushrooms?
Yes, yeah,
because those
male
two
feminist,
do go hand in hand.
Actually,
with
male feminist Glaive. Yes.
Now that I think about it, it's a weird situation for me because it's like the Glaive signing I think is easier and makes like is like easier for Astralis to do. It's like, well, okay, obviously we re-sign Glaive, right? You have to, if you have to put the future of your org on something, and Zonic and the company are like looking out, then obviously you re-sign the Glaive, right? You look like an idiot if you didn't. Whereas like signing Zipnix, I think was like more of like a choice. But I almost think like the decision I question more, and the one that will be like more important that I think could like really fuck them, is like the Glaive one more so than the Zipnix one. I don't know. I just think the Zipnix one is like way easier to get out of. Not necessarily the contract, but like who you need to replace him as like a player. You know,
that's a fair point. Yeah, because who are you going to replace Glaive with? Even if you do, I guess at that point you just turn the reins to Blame F and say, "Here you go, buddy."
If Glaive doesn't work out, if he's not as comfortable without Zonic, if like his attentions are otherwhere, like maybe he needs to get somewhere fresh or something. Like recovering from like Glaive not working out would be a lot harder than Zipnix, because at that point, like you said, like you need an IGL. Like, so now is Blame F just getting the reins to Astralis now? Like, what would happen?
That'd be kind of nuts. I mean, I'm trying to think back also to the thing that Pronogo said, where Blame F, can he work in a system when he's not calling? Because it has been a long time, like
since
even
before Heroic, basically. Yeah,
I think he was calling on Heroic
for at least part of his tenure there, like the last start. Blame F.
Blame F.
Yeah, he was.
He was calling, so like it's gonna be a little weird to see him just as a raw player again. But then again, like, okay, seriously, my biggest concern with Astralis is Lucky. I actually think that the rest of the players can work. If I'm being a lot more grounded, it's just that Lucky needs to get better, because at the major, he was like the second worst player in terms of rating, and he's the opper. Like, that's just unacceptable.
It's also just like
period.
He doesn't have like impact ever. It feels like
no, he's so low impact. He's so low impact.
Like,
other than the one series where they beat Liquid to make it to the fall finals, like I haven't ever seen Lucky play that well. Like that was his best series he's ever played.
Some oppers that average like a 0.99 rating, and otherwise are kind of trash. Like sometimes they just like go off and just like hit like the sickest shit, or like do like some like insane aggro stuff. But like with Lucky, it's like he's playing like Device, but he's just not doing anything. Like,
he's just not hitting that one shot that he's offered. You know
what? Like, say what you will, but he avoided the 16-0 against NIP. So
wow, he did it. He really did. Yeah. Okay.
I'll say on the Glaive topic, I did want to mention that, like, one thing that's really exciting about this move, no matter which side of the fence you're on, if you're a Vitality fan now or an Astralis fan now, they're kind of one and the same anyway. You got to bear in mind, this is an opportunity for Zonic to at least partially prove that he can hack it as a coach at the top tier with a different set of players, with a different caller, with a different culture. And then at the same time for Glaive, it's an opportunity for him to prove that it wasn't just Zonic, that it was, really like who was like the more than 50% of that half. Was it? It's unlikely it was dead even. So was Glaive doing more? Was Zonic doing more? It's an opportunity for both of them to essentially reinvent their careers, tell a new story, like further their legacy in that sense. And I think that's an exciting thing that every fan of Counter-Strike can get behind, even if you're one of those Astralis haters or whatever, right?
I feel like Zonic couldn't have gone to like a better org from Astralis than Vitality, because Vitality seems like very similar, but just like better in like every way. You know what I mean? Like,
also from what X has said, like they're fully willing to let the coach handle a lot of the minutia in terms of like player changes.
Yeah, they're already drilled in that, right? Yeah,
it's like they're willing to let the coach handle shit. Like they obviously have money, especially because I'm seeing what they're doing in League of Legends, and I know that shit isn't cheap.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just a really good decision from Zonic and Co to take up this off. Dude, like he's going to a new team, but it's like, dude, he's already got fucking Zywoo there. Like he's got an amazing org behind him. Like he couldn't have chose like a better team to go to. Like,
it's a pretty awesome situation. I mean, the only thing
than re-signing with Astralis, like it is.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I think Vitality's. I just flat out think Vitality's a better org from the outside.
Yes.
Okay, other thing, closer to home, North America, EG, they finally pulled the trigger on a move that we have wanted for so long, and finally it's just like, okay, we're out of the major, here it is. This is what we were planning to do. That's how it felt. They took out Mihu, they took out Obo, and they took out Stanislaw. I just kind of want to start because I felt like I wanted Mihu gone. I wanted Stanislaw gone. I would have kept Obo personally. So that one kind of rubbed me in a weird direction.
Is that like Obo like just wanting to leave and not really wanting to stay on, or is that them actively just like saying we don't?
So it's impossible to say. It's impossible for me to say for certain. But
it seems weird that like I just can't imagine like Obo's been one of the players that's actually playing well, and he doesn't seem to be like much of an issue attitude wise. I mean, obviously he had the thing with complexity that was like much different. He doesn't seem to be like toxic or like super hard to work with or anything, and he plays like tons of shitty spots. Yeah. So it's like I would be surprised if like EG was like, yeah, we don't want to keep Obo, but I mean,
the only thing I can think for that is another team like a Cloud9 or a Complexity is trying to sign him again. I don't know if Complexity would go back to him after what he did to that org, but like
maybe Liquid opts for him too. If they're going to be changing players, I just don't see why
EG would specifically cut him right now. Like it doesn't really make sense in terms.
All I'm saying is that Obo would be a much fitter. Like I just want Liquid to do something completely different, and just in general. But I was going to say that, like Obo would be a much better fit in Grim's role than Grim was.
Okay, so we saw the news that also, like, it was like a rumor on Rush B media that Stewie and Fallen were looking for other opportunities. What would you guys think if Stewie joined Cirque and Breeze? Like, if that were your core three?
That makes sense to me.
I'm still so out on Cirque, man. Like, I know he hit really good form back in the NRG days and going into the initial foray of EG, where I think they made the finals or maybe even won the tournament that they had gone to when they signed and announced that they were joining EG. I think that could be a real interesting move, but like something needs to either reinvigorate Cirque or he needs to fly back home or something. Like something's got to give here. And unfortunately,
the thing with Cirque is that people say like he'll just go back to EU, but I'm pretty sure
he might be NA now. Yeah,
NA.
Practically considers himself North American. Like he's been living here like 3 or 4 years. Like he's moved different places. Like I even remember like I even remember like it was like some like sit down talk at like breakfast like the Minor a couple years ago. This is like over 2 years ago. Mind
He's been here for 4 years. 4 years in NA.
This is over 2 years ago, mind you. Like even back then, Cirque was saying I pretty much just consider myself like an NA player, like an American in the scene because that's where I live. That's where I'm based. Yeah.
Maybe he goes to Complexity. Like, I don't know. Like there's something he could do, but I feel like he's just been wearing the same colors for too long. Yeah. Admittedly, they are changing the whole system now. Stan is out. Daps is coaching. Who knows what happens under those circumstances? But it does feel like something really massive has to happen for him individually so that they can contend at the top again. Because otherwise, like, who's your opper, right? Because he's not really doing the role.
Breeze isn't just dipping the Valorant. I will say.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad Breeze is sticking around. I'm so glad. Could not have. That dude. He's one of my favorite players for real.
Yeah, does Obo even play Valorant? I don't think he does, doesn't he?
He hasn't tweeted about it, but the guy tweets once a month. So.
Then again, Obo could probably pick up Valorant and be like one of the best at it in like 2 weeks. So whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever he wants to do.
That's not impossible.
I just think
to get offers.
In NA, there's also just I think there's a decent number of pieces to build around outside of like a surprisingly decent number of pieces to build around outside of like the players already on teams like Liquid. Even if you discount Fallen and Stu, like you have Tarek, you have Rush, you have players like Floppy, OC, you have upcomers, you have Junior. You have a lot of these players who haven't actually, some of these players who haven't been tested, but also players who can still move up into these roles and have a chance. And then also proven talent like Rush and Tarek, who I don't know if Tarek wants to come back into a full-time like
I can't see Tarek
coming
back. I think Rush could. I can't see
Rush
Tarek.
has clearly just been sitting on the sidelines waiting for an offer after this period.
He was trying out with Valorant teams, I thought. I think George reported that actually.
He was, but I don't think he was. I don't think he committed to any of them.
No, he didn't commit, but he's actively looking to compete. It's not like Tarek, where Tarek has
exactly.
Tarek has like 10,000 subs on Twitch. Okay, it's really hard to pull yourself away from that. Honestly, just seeing that money come in.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to consider too is that Rush said in the interview with Thorin, I believe, was when he said like, "Yeah, I'm open to Valorant. I'm trying it out," but. You know, there was a part of him in the answer that you could feel like he still wants CS. You know, in his heart.
That's what I mean. I think if the right offer in CS comes along, he would take that over an offer.
Even a good offer, really. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, doesn't take much to be the right offer. Is my take anyway. That's what I think.
So I would see. So the move I would see EG doing is they need an IGL. So what I would want would be Stewie. What I'm kind of expecting right now is that they might just go with Daps. I think Daps might I don't know for certain, but it feels like they might do something in that direction. Like because who really put Cirque on the map and Breeze on the map as individuals and like started their careers, it was dapz, you know, as their in-game leader. And so who would be better to like revitalize it? I think it might be dapz again, playing alongside him.
It is kind of funny that like some of these NA orgs would rather like, or NACS in general, would rather go back and get dapz from Valorant, from his NRG project in Valorant that didn't do anything. Yeah. Bring him back, put him as a coach first, and then make him the IGL, rather than like take a chance on like some other IGL or something. You know what I mean?
Or continue with Stan. Yeah.
So also played decently.
They continue with Stan. I'm gonna be honest.
dapz also played decently at the event that he stood in for Stan for. The first one, that is, I think it was EPL.
Probably there was 2 events at least that.
Yeah, I think he played EPL, and he also played. Did he also play Blast?
I think he also played Blast. I don't know how well he played at Blast, but
the whole team
EPL he was decent.
To be fair, at Blast they played with like fucking like Spellin or something as well.
Yeah, they played with Spellin also. Yeah.
But EPL dapz had a 0.8 rating, which can't be too far off what he had.
Less of his like actual rating
pretty bad before that too. Yeah.
Less of his like actual rating performance, but in the server he actually did have some impact rounds, and it seemed like EG was playing more cohesively. So I think it's not necessarily just like a pure individual form.
dapz ceiling as an individual was so low. I can't imagine it's that hard to get back there. Like honestly, I really think that takes like 20 hours in deathmatch to get back to what dapz was playing like at the peak of his powers. So if he can just call and just make things a little bit more Cirque and Breeze focus, if he can raise, because Stanislaw was playing like absolute garbage. So like honestly, if you can just play as well as Stan, which is possible for dapz to do,
like, it is like dapz would have to put in like 20% effort to call better than Stan was.
Yeah, I know. So it's like there's not a lot of room where you're gonna fit. You can't do worse. You cannot, like what EG were showing in the last few months was abysmal, and it was just like, hard to watch as an NA fan.
I'd rather see something else and something new, but like you really can't get worse. Like this dapz coming back to IGL is still an upgrade over what they were doing.
Yes, so
I'm just excited to see the completed revenge arc from dapz, where
it's beautiful.
Takes over Stanislaus.
Assuming it happens, yeah, it would be really, really cool. Who do you guys want for the other 2 though? For the other 2 spots, they don't need they just need 2 riflers basically. Let's assume it's dapz, or just assume it's dapz right now.
Assume it's dapz and they don't change the other players.
And they said they wanted to stay to NA, like they said in the tweet.
Yeah, they're committed to NACS.
Committed to NACS.
So Cirque, Breeze, dapz is what you're saying.
Let's just say it's right, because yeah. So who would you
fuck
want?
It. Let's get
Alige. Alige, get over.
Alige.
Stewie can stay. Alige, go.
Okay. Give me one or the other. Give me one or
one or the. It can't be both, because that's the sort of same conflict we were talking about earlier.
Alige and dapz on the same team, personality-wise.
Listen, if Alige joins EG and dapz is on the team, then dapz is on the team for a month, and then they get a different guy. So.
That's actually true, yeah.
Tara
can't rejoin the team now, is what we know, because he'll just try to kick dapz as soon as possible, right? So that's
if Alige does it instead, it's not my fault. Watermelon brain. Let's go.
Wonder how many Valorant players are thinking of switching on back right now.
Floppy is the trendsetter, surely. Floppy and dapz.
I
mean, there's a lot of people that didn't make the LCQ, you know, or they didn't get it through to the Grand Champion thing. So.
I think anyone...
if EG doesn't get Stewie, they could go for someone like Rush.
I think Rush is a natural fit. The only question is he's not very heavy on production stats-wise, so I'm not 100% sure if he's got the firepower for this roster. But if Breeze performs, then they don't need that. So
if you're bringing dapz back, all right. If they bring dapz back and then they brought like Rush and Stewie, I'd be out on that team. I'd be like,
I don't think Rush and Stewie, one or the other.
No,
it can't be both. Can't be both. Yeah, I was saying it needs to be one or the other, and then you need another sick rifler.
Yes, absolutely.
Could be a sick young rifler. Like there's a few, you know, that we've seen.
Like Obo, maybe.
Like Obo.
Again, this cut doesn't make sense.
Could you imagine Obo? They make the announcement, we have signed Obo. It's like, you just cut him.
Yeah, I just don't get this cut, because
minus Obo plus Obo.
Unless there's like personality issues that I'm not aware of, and he's like hard to work with or something. But it's like, he plays like shit spots. Like he seems to do fine with it. He doesn't seem to require like a ton of resources or anything. Like, I don't know. Obo just seems like a great player to have on any team. But I could be wrong.
Okay, all right. I think that's enough on EG though. Let's go.
Yeah, we spent more time on them than they spent in the major, bro.
That's absolutely facts, man. That is absolutely facts.
I like how every time they get brought up and I'm the guest, I just have to flame them. I'm sorry, EG. I'm sorry.
Let's go to what was. Okay, let's go to the first part of the question of the week. Let's just go to the question of the week. All right, let's do it. So the question of the week I had was, you have to change out one Navi player. Who do you swap out of Navi? You have to. Even though they just won the major, even though they're the best team in the world, it's their era. You have to take somebody out.
Can we do something though? You have to choose one player except for Perfecto.
Well, one person can take Perfecto
that's not simple already. You have to pick someone that's not simple too.
No. Well, you don't. One person who
you don't have to.
No, one person who's not.
You can take out Simple.
Can take Perfecto if they want. I'm taking Simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take out Simple and add Monazi. Give Simple a 6-month break.
There it is.
Bring him back afterward. There you go.
That's not even my angle, but yeah.
All right, listen. Your guys' angle is like, I guess you want to take him down a peg or something.
The question did not say that you can't bring him back. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying you let Simple have
someone
a
in chat spoiled what I was
going to
do. Someone in chat spoiled what I was going to say.
If I'm the GM for Navi, I know what got spoiled for you, but this was something I was going to say too. Like, just in general, in terms of like my answer for this question, is that I would take out Electronic before I take out Bit. That's my honest opinion after this major.
I agree.
I would take out Electronic before Bit.
Yeah. I would give I actually literally was thinking exactly what someone said, which is that Electronic for Mirror right now is basically a 1-to-1 in terms of roles, and Mirror was in my eyes, I'd say the best or second best player on Spirit. If you want to say Dexter's better, that's fine with me, but they were the best too. So I think that Mirror would be a really good fit for this roster.
Dude,
he's an aggressive rifler, space maker.
Electronic is really fucking good, don't get me wrong. Like, top 5 player in the world at times, but I think Bit is literally going to be so fucking good. Like, this guy's aim is insane, and he's only getting better and better and better. Like, this guy, like, you have to keep him for the future. For like how good he's gonna be in the future, you keep him over Electronic.
Dude, it's like he has no nerves as one of the brand new players to the top scene.
Less nerves than his veteran player teammates in some cases.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's actually kind of
This guy said, obviously, Bit, if the 4 could help make a new player to get that good, then they can make another player also good. That's not how that works.
I don't know about that at all.
Bit is legendary in the fact that he's the rookie of the year.
If you just plug another player who has a 75% headshot percentage, then they might be as good.
So Twist would be the fit, right? That's the only thing that makes sense.
My angle is
go.
If I'm not picking Simple, which is entirely for storylines and nothing to do with obviously you can't. Right. If I'm not picking Simple, then I think Boomich actually is a legit shout, because I've never really rated the guy as an IGL. I know their tactics and their systems are working really well right now, but the problem is that they don't like my issue, and I think like the perceived weakness for Navi is when it, like, obviously they can make comebacks on CT side, but I feel like their T side comebacks, maybe it's just the meta, maybe this is a one-off. At the major, they didn't look too hot. Like it basically had to be against G2 on Ancient, for example. Like there were some cases where I felt like Boomich's adaptability, specifically on T sides, can be exploited. And so if you're going to make an argument that's not based on a player's like stats or whatever, you probably want to swap him out. I just don't know who you replace him with. That's the biggest issue.
Here's the thing is that you can't even be sure that replacing him with a better like IGL is going to work, because it has to be someone that's like very tenured, like Zeus was, because Simple is going to be very vocal, and that's going to fuck up a lot of callers if they're having to deal with it.
Simple won't be vocal, bro, because he's out of the team. He's out of the team.
Simple's literally sitting in the middle, like he talks all the time, like a lot. He's obviously very vocal. Like that team's probably just as much his as like an IGL than it is like Boomich's. I'd say it's like Blades more than anyone's, it seems like. So getting an IGL like Boomich's that can coexist with Simple and like in Blade, and like being able to coexist between all that fucking talking and like someone like Simple that wants to play how he wants to do and is like that good, like it's really not that easy for an IGL to do. Like you have to be a certain type of IGL for that to work. If you're someone that wants to do things your way and you have a certain vision, you want to play to that vision, most likely playing with Simple isn't going to be like for you if you're not able to like loosen that up and do all types of shit and be able to like and not be like so affected by taking so much input from, you know, Simple or whoever.
Yeah, I think when for the Simple angle, I will say I just want to see that guy the same way I said Elijah to Liquid. Like I actually, there was a moment where obviously he's being interviewed. He's just won the major. James Banks is interviewing him, and he says, "How do you feel right now? Like what's going through your mind?" And Simple's response is, "I made a promise. I would win a major for Navi. I've done it." And that had a note of finality.
Go back to Gambit.
Yeah. That had a note of finality to it, right? That, like, to me, that felt like, okay, he's done he's paid the piper. The AK can go away from his head in contract negotiations. He can finally start to explore other offers. I want to see Simple in another team, bro. Like, I know this is a team. Go back to coming home. Yeah, send them home.
It's true home.
Yeah. So I just want to see that. I want to see that.
You guys are missing it. Simple's going to 100 Thieves Valorant to reunite with Hiko.
That was an angle. I thought you were going to say he's resurrecting like the Flipside brand, or he's going to go to Hellraisers or something.
Yeah, I thought he was going to say Hellraisers.
What if Simple really just wanted to win a major in CSGO, join 100 Thieves Valorant, win a Valorant major, and then come back to CSGO? Or he'll just go on to the next FPS and try. Goes to Rainbow Six Siege and just wins in that game too.
On a real note, like, that is like such a very fulfilling thing for Simple, because there's like a lot of players. It's like a very similar thing for me, right? The thing that got me into CS in the first place, the thing that almost pretty much brought me back to CS, was like watching Cloud9 win, especially in these fucking majors, right? Like that's the team I've always been most attached to, even more so than like Liquid or whatever NA team was good, right? So for me, like, the end all be all would be winning a CS major with C9. Like, doing that, being able to like help them come back to that, like, more like, obviously any major win's gonna feel fucking good, but if you do it with like how Simple did it with Navi, or like a brand that like you truly care about because you kind of like grew up with it almost, like, winning with that specific team is like even more fucking fulfilling than just winning like any type of major. So Simple doing that, winning this major with Navi, you know, once you do that, like, Simple is going to be thinking a lot this week about, okay, like, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, I did that. What is, like, he has, how old is Simple? Like, not even like 25 probably. Like, he has
24. I think he's 24.
Yeah, like 24. So it's like such a fucking future ahead of him. Like, he can do anything. Like, he could go to any team he wanted, especially when his contract's out. You know, he could go to Valorant if he wanted. Like, he could do anything. Like, once you win the major, especially if like that team, that specific team that you really wanted to win with, it's just very fulfilling, and you feel like you could do anything at that point.
I like what someone did say, the Simple to G2 op. Just make it a super team. Just make it.
Carlos did say everything has a price, my friend.
Everything has a price. Yeah. He did say it. He did.
Nico, bro, I'm gonna get you a major.
Nico, we're winning this one together. So I'll always have one more major than you.
If that ever happened, I would just hope that the announcement would be kept under as tight wraps as the device to move.
Because could you imagine him putting up the samurai
that would be the biggest blockbuster move I've seen in my life.
Damn, yeah.
Oh my god.
I would get pumped for that. I kind of am sad that this Astralis one leaked. I guess we get to talk about it on the show, but like the Vitality one, I mean, like the fact that one, I wanted to see the same sort of a hype announcement video where it's like, you know, the French people have like sort of, they're like standing there waiting, you know, like what I don't know what you do with Vitality. They don't have like a ninja aesthetic. They're a bee. So
well, I mean, they like announced Z was re-signing with multiple banners and holograms around.
Yeah,
Paris, right?
Re-signed till 2024 or whatever it was. Yeah, that one.
But the problem is that the French scene is leakier than like a bashed up faucet. So there's no way that would ever happen.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's like a wet baguette just dripping. Who's seen a wet baguette? Who's seen a wet? Just me? Okay. All right.
When Vitality wins a major, they're just going to release thousands of bees.
Just think of all, I guess. Nobody. You have to sign a waiver to sit in the crowd, especially the front row. You have to sign a waiver saying you're not allergic. Just
everybody's just wearing the bee shirt, or I forgot the bee suit. You know, the protection one, not the bees.
Yeah.
Not the bees. I think that this has been pretty good. 2.5 hour stream. I think this is pretty much wrapped up. I think we got a lot done here. I think we'll do another one soon. I think I said before that Hooksy already said he would do it. He would do one, but he just couldn't do it today, and I can't do it tomorrow because I'm going to be flying. So that seems like it's in the works. If not, we'll be talking to some other people. Let's do shoutouts. We haven't done shoutouts for a while, and plus we're on stream. So let's go. Pranogo, what's your shoutout? What's your shoutout?
I'll shout out Yumi at UM3TV because that's a complicated Twitter handle.
He's a good username.
Yeah,
easy to remember.
Yeah.
Rolls off the tongue.
He's been giving me a lot of great points and great tweets that I steal out of his mouth and onto my Twitter. So I figured I'd return the favor and give him a little something. So yeah, we've been. He's part of the watch party I've been doing. That's not streamed anywhere. It's just a bunch of casters and ex-casters talking shit, and we've been having a good time. So shout out to him. He made the experience better. And yeah, there you go. That's my shout out.
Yumi's a good shout out because Yumi actually has a great.
Do you know you'll like this, Mauisnake? You'll like this. So because Yumi did a stats guy job once in his whole career, we now meme on him, referring to him as the stats guy. And so he's gotten to the point where he doesn't bring up any stats at all. And so we will, because like you'd think that would defeat the bit. Like we can't make fun of him for being stats. Instead, I just say, hey, can you tweet this stat? I'll give him stats. So like it's turned into that. It's just I'm waiting for him to put it into his profile or something. He just never will.
It is funny that he got that stats guy job at Flashpoint.
Yeah.
That came out of absolutely nowhere. All right, no. What's your shout out?
I'll shout out the broadcast talent from the major. I think they actually did a fantastic job, especially with some of the earlier technical difficulties and mic problems and broadcast stuff. Especially, I think Bleh for his first major dust was really, really good. And then obviously, like Richard Lewis cleaned up as the host, and Maniac is always good. And then Thorn obviously coming in with some really funny moments, especially during the group stage.
I liked his sign off on day one where he went, Deva, go bye-bye. And Richard is just like trying not to laugh.
We didn't actually talk about the talent that much. I just realized.
Do you guys want to save that for next? What do you think?
We should talk about it because I don't think Hooksy wants to talk about talent.
Probably. Fair enough. Makes sense.
Okay, well, Mix, how about, do you want to do your shout out now or after talent talk?
We'll do it after talent talk.
Okay, let's do a little talent talk then.
I have an important shout out. It's very important.
Okay. So yeah, it should be at the end. It should be. Sorry for that, guys. I just remembered.
Shout out Esatag.
I'm gonna shout out OC again for the 8th time. Okay, let's do a little talent talk. So Bardolph said that thing about so I'll just be up front. Yeah. I'll be upfront with this. These guys are all my colleagues. Some of them I like a lot, and I don't want to be. I'm never going to be overly critical in these kinds of moments. If I have very constructive criticism for things, I'll put that out there. But I'm going to rely on you. You guys can say what you guys want.
I can be critical. I don't know any of them.
Your guys' opinions aren't my opinions. They just aren't. They're just not my opinions. So let's just start with the initial drama. The initial drama was clearly that Bardolph was upset about the fact that him and DDK only did a single BO3 in the playoffs, and it was the worst
quarterfinal on paper.
It was on paper it was the worst quarterfinal, and for I think I counted the other ones. So for both the semifinals, it was Semler Anders and Semler Moses. For another quarterfinal, it was Semler Anders. Another semifinal was Semler Moses, and then I think another quarterfinal was Sponge Machine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Sponge
Machine could have been I don't know.
Sponge Machine got 2, quarterfinal, grand final. Anders Semler got 2, quarter semi. Anders Moses got 2, quarter semi, and DDK Bardolph only got 1, a quarterfinal. So that's just the facts. That's just the facts that are out there. What are your guys' thoughts?
Just unfortunate that Semler didn't get the final. I mean, Semler, grand final, maybe a TriCast, Semler, TriCast. I mean, that would have been pretty cool.
That would have been great. Yeah. I would have listened to that.
I actually don't mind Semler. It does look pretty funny that he's just been on, he somehow weaseled his way in.
I don't know, I don't know. Surely there could have been a better way to proportion this. I mean, I don't know anything about how this fucking shit works, right? But I don't understand why Semler was in 4 and I didn't get one Anders Moses or something.
It would obviously anytime Semler was with Moses, it was supposed to be Sadakist with Moses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say it's very clear that their original plan was that Bardolph and DDK, regardless, were only gonna get 1 series because you have 4 duos and 7 matches. You're always gonna have. Originally, they had 4 duos and 7 matches, so you're always gonna have one that gets a single match.
Yeah.
And it seems like their original plan was to have Sato and Moses be on the second semi and Sponge Machine on the final, but that couldn't happen when Sato missed out. Also, it would have been so nice to hear Sato in the arena. I'm actually
I am disappointed.
Someone's gonna get one cast though. Surely it should be more than just one of the quarterfinals that.
Yeah, like a semi. Give him a semi or a grand final.
Give them a semi, or give them fucking G2 and Nip. with the home crowd. Give them
the best.
Make it special. Make it special if they can only do one.
Give them a semi. Sure. Give them a good quarterfinal. I don't know. I just felt I can understand why James felt how he felt, especially in the moment. Obviously, I still wouldn't have done that sign off on broadcast. That was probably a bit much.
Yes.
But just the sign off on broadcast is really suspect, but the fact that it's a tweet follow up afterwards while the event is going on, that's
I think it was the tweet first and then the sign off, wasn't it?
No. He signed off and then did the tweet.
Yeah, because he didn't finish his cast, right? He didn't finish his work. He was.
I thought there was some in between or some shit. Yeah. But But anyway, yeah, I can understand. Like, obviously, I wouldn't have done that, but obviously, I understand why he felt like upset about it. Like, I can understand. I can understand why you would feel shafted in that situation because you definitely were kind of a bit. But I don't know. Definitely a better way to go about it. Kind of unfortunate, but yeah, I don't really know much else about it. So.
Yeah, I don't think I would have publicly aired out something like that, especially while the major's running, because you're just gonna detract from the broadcast as a whole. I think Richard even sort of implied it in his closing tweet, where he was like, he said that didn't tweet during the event as a cardinal sin is to let bullshit spill into the broadcast, and I think that's
subtext.
Exactly what happened in this context, unfortunately.
Yeah, in a little while's time, when By the Numbers does go live, and we get the most ridiculous post-major BTN of all time, most likely, we are going to find out some information, and I'm sure some of it will remain behind the scenes as to what was alluded to in the tweet by Richard Lewis, where he did say that 4 members of talent, I believe was the number, had some very unfortunate side effects. Obviously, one of them was quite public with James Banks, but apparently there were others. I don't know how much of that is going to have affected the end result, how much they're even going to get into, because some of it's probably not related to them, and thus they won't have had the permissions, if you will, to start speaking of it. It's probably just nobody's business anyway, but I think when you add that to the context of the major and of the broadcast and all the production issues PGL had and all the other problems that PGL had that downwind, did affect the casting talent, I'm actually amazed we got as good cast as we did this tournament. I am fucking amazed that these guys were able to do what they were able to do, especially in the arena specifically, where everybody leveled up. And there wasn't a bad cast that I can't think of any show match excluded. There wasn't a bad cast, guys. Like, we had a really solid arena cast for the first time in a while. And even the grand finals, which is their first major grand finals, the first time this duo, well, I guess second time because they cast at a quarterfinal, but like, these are their first games, Machine and Sponge, in an arena. Like, that's crazy to think about because they've been with us for so long, but that's how long we've been without arenas. So I think it's just really good that we got this level of quality, and it's a real shame that that was just another thing. The Bardolph tweet in this case is just another thing that negatively impacted the broadcast because now it's been public. It's the biggest controversy according to like Reddit upvotes and stats that the tournament faced. This is with all the other problems.
I also just hate it because it made the discourse and conversation around the other talent members just so much more toxic and negative throughout it. Like, him doing that doesn't just speak of them being like missing out on doing multiple matches, but also more than half the comments in that thread, I want to say, were probably like disparaging other talent members and trying to compare each other
every single time.
Yeah, not even like specifically. There was a lot obviously focused on Semler, which was unreasonable, especially to the degree of some of how vicious the comments were. But on top of that, you had like, oh, this is I prefer this pair over this pair. I'm just like, fuck off. They're all very talented people. And the fact that everybody feels the need to compare one duo to another as if, oh, your opinion on who is like this duo is slightly better than the other, it doesn't matter. They're all extremely talented and enough to walk us through it. And they proved it in the arena.
I'll say, like, I think it's kind of, in a way, like, pointless to. I mean, you can come up. Any fan can come up with their list of who the favorite casters are and stuff like that. But the way that TOs see it is they have their own internal tier lists, basically, and like they might have it down to the pairing. But when you're gonna hire 4, they just basically hire their S tier. They're four pairs in the S tier. That's what PGL thought was their S tier right there. And maybe it's not another TO's S tier, but like it in a way, it's like the ordering is not that important to like the people that are really on top. Like sometimes it'll change who like is the grand final person versus the semifinal person, but really it's not. Those opinions, in a way, can just kind of like be kept to yourself. Sure, just post it on Reddit because who cares? You're a fan. You just want to say things like whatever. But in terms of
we all care, we all doom scroll, and we all laugh at you behind the scenes. You fucks, stop posting that.
Yeah, we like when I think of my colleagues, I kind of in a way think like, okay, who's working this event with me? Okay, it's not really accurate, but it's like I just think like, okay, we're all on this tier of this TO is how we're perceiving this right now. Like that's what it is to me. And I think going to like really fine distinctions is more toxic to at least me being a talent as opposed to like constructive. It doesn't really help me to say like this casting duo is the best, this casting duo is the best. Like everybody's good in their own ways. And I actually can basically point out flaws of almost every duo, honestly. If I wanted to behind the scenes, I could say that this person's bad at like even your favorite duo, I could find like 10 flaws for, like, because we're all it's become my craft, you know.
My fatal flaw as a caster is casting and talking.
Yeah, yours mix. Yeah, you know, the stuttering doesn't quite work on a live broadcast as
like
much, but in a podcast,
just like always go for the deke shot. Like, oh my god,
it's fine. It's fine.
Sheriff
Actually,
shot,
you know what?
Sheriff shot. Come on.
You know what? They got the grand final and they killed it. Sponge Machine. I'll just say like what one of those like things is. So I'm not just blowing smoke here. Like, just like this is completely constructive, and I would probably tell Sponge to look into it a little bit. Like, work on trying to, in hyper moments, use your diaphragm a little bit more, because I could tell it got really throaty in some of those sections, and I can tell, like, if you're doing a lot of events, your throat's going to go away very fast. Like, that's how I used to sing at karaoke 6 years ago, and my voice would hurt the next day. I could kind of hear it, but if you use more of your diaphragm, you can, like, you're gonna have a longer and more sustainable career.
Do casters do like voice warm-ups? Is that like a thing?
Some
a lot of them have vocal coaches and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking is that like all of them should be doing like you know, essentially stretching your vocals before you do a cast. I think.
Yeah, there's just like, I mean, it's just one of those things, and I'm not saying it like I would have done better. Like, I'm 100% not saying like I would do better. It's just something that I notice, and just showing that I know what I'm.
Might even do it worse
a little bit. Yeah, might do it worse. Might just flat out be bad. Might just get nervous in the moment. But I thought for a grand final and for their first arena cast for the quarterfinals and for the grand finals, I think Sponge Machine did an excellent job. Like, I think they were incredibly deserving of getting the grand final. That's
100%.
It was the passing of the torch, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Mix's shout out as we wrap that one up.
Give a shout out to this chatter that I think has been very good throughout the entire thing.
Someone on chat.
PP wee wee gaga poo poo. I think it's been a very involved chatter.
Floppy? Is that you, Floppy? That's a floppy burner. Okay.
But very, very active the entire time. You know, I want to. If we're gonna do live streams, I'm gonna shout out chatters. I think is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see who's being active.
Yeah.
I'm see who's being active. Who do I like? Okay. And his name is just a natural. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you see that
right off the tongue, bro.
You see that, and you know this guy knows what he's talking about. So, goated, absolutely goated.
What a disaster of a closing statement. Jesus Christ.
I'll give a couple quick shout outs here. Okay. I'll say one is shout out to Nico for trying as hard as you did in the major. Like, honestly, could have been one of the best performances of all time. Obviously, that's not how Nico, the PP always crumbles.
I said, when Nico goes to sleep at night, he needs to thank fucking God that was map 2 trying to go to a map 3 and not map 3.
And not map 3 itself. Yeah.
If that was map 3...
If they choked map 3 on the verge of winning like that, then shout out to it being
choking map 2, whatever. You still have to go through like an entire other map.
Another map. You don't even know if you would have won at all.
Yeah. But like, if it was like map 3 and it was like 15-12, you literally would only be thinking about that for the next like week. Like, I'm not kidding. That would be the only thing on your mind. You would go. He's
probably already still doing that. To be fair.
Yeah, he still will. But yeah.
Yeah.
And my other shout outs are because I don't know who is really going. I'll just shout out the people that I think kind of have alluded to it. That includes DDK, Richard, and Thorin. I mean, people that say like, this might be my last broadcast. If it is, shouts out to all you guys, because I think you guys all did fantastic jobs, and I think that, like Note said, and a lot of people said, I think the only thing that kept this major together were the games and the talent. I think that
exactly.
There's a lot of negatives to say about what PGL did there, and if it weren't for the people on camera and for the players in those servers, this would have been a disaster, flat out. It would have been really bad. And so, shouts out to everybody that helped make it memorable in the best way possible.
All right, cool. Do I fade out now?
Yeah, fade it out. Let's fade it.
Bye.
Fade the flares.